on time. Let's go. We fuck with that. We fuck with a mostly on time Granblue stream. 5 minutes late, but you know, it's been worse recently. There's no problem. Let me do this real quick. Alright, grab this guy. Put him over there. Kill that guy. Move over here. Go here. Take him first. Hello, Sadman. How you doing? Give me 1 sec here. Take this fella. And put him over here. There we go. Let me turn down these majestic ass bagpipes. It's nice, but it's a little loud. It's a little bit loud. All right. I think I've got all the major ones. I don't think I've missed anything. There's a couple of like little tiny, like bug fix patches that don't really do anything, right? But I think I got most of the ones that matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can't count, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. I guess that makes sense. Most of them about like 2-3 months apart. A couple that were, you know, right after. It's been like, I mean, the game came out in December, but like there were betas and stuff like that. It's been almost 2 years. That is kind of crazy to think that it has been almost 2 years, but it's been almost 2 years in many ways. All right, so. Yeah, plan for today. Let me see if I can full screen this, though. Yeah, Tier Maker's got the ads everywhere, but that's okay. You know what? It's a fun website. I'll let them pay for it if they so desire. Yeah, so plan for today, I think, is to go through every single patch. Major. Well, I say major as in, like, a patch where at least something changed. There are a good amount of patches in the game where it was just like, you know, patch 1.3.3, where it was just a couple of bug fixes and nothing else, right? So every patch where at least something relatively important changed, and just kind of go through them and see how good the patches for this game have been. This is kind of, I just got to talking about this yesterday on stream, where I was thinking about, you know, the wellness patch. Spoiler, it'll be the last one we do, but it's a little bit of an oddball. It's a little bit wonkier than I remember most of the patches being, right? But who knows, right? I figured I would actually go back and analyze these in a little bit more depth, kind of go through the history and see, have the patches of this game been as good as I think? You know, fair warning, fair bias. I am currently, before we really go through and look through each single one of them back to back to back to back, I've been of the mind that most of them have been pretty good. So we'll see. We have in order here, so I'm gonna do these chronologically. This one I actually saw existed. I'm not familiar with this. This is since before I started playing Granblue. This is a patch for things that changed between the second beta, the second open beta, and the official release of Granblue. Is this one right here? This is the Lucilius patch. This is the 2B patch. This is the Vayne patch. This is the Beatrix patch. This is the Beatrix emergency patch. This is the Versuja patch. This is a patch that happened soon after the Versuja patch that did some ranked adjustments. This is the Vikala patch, Sandalphon Season 2 patch, Galleon patch, and the Wellness patch. Makes sense? Already predicting Nier Nerf patch will be S tier. It's funny you say that. So I do want to rename these tiers, as is tradition, and also recolor them, because I never understood why red is supposed to be the best one. You know, that doesn't really track to me. Do we need more than 5? I don't know that we need more than 5. But yeah, the plan is that there is one patch here that is just the GOAT. And if that is not already obvious to you, then it will be soon. But then I think there are, what will be a reasonable thing here, like major and good, I would say, is probably important, right? A patch where a lot of things changed, and overall, like, it was very good. What's up, Mr. Streamer? Hello, Toast. How you doing? I would probably say minor but good. There's a couple of these that I think I can think of off the top of my head where, like, you know, not a ton of stuff changed, but like the stuff that happened kind of needed to happen, right? You could do like a mixed bag, perhaps, where either, you know, it was just like too small, like not enough happened, or, you know, maybe there like were a bunch of changes, but like there's a lot of like weird shit in there. And I don't even know if I'm gonna put anything in here, but just in case, as we go forth, we can look at a disappointing tier, perhaps. I don't think that this game has never had any, like, Rising, at least. I don't know about Vanilla, but this game has never had any, like, truly horrendous patches, right? So I don't think we need anything worse than that. I think disappointing is probably about as bad as it gets. Just, you know, a patch where I was like, well, okay, well, you know, not your best work, fellas. Yeah. So if that all makes sense, I think we can get started here. So this first one, actually, I don't actually know what I'm gonna see in this one. I'm at least vaguely familiar with every other patch in the game because I was playing the game when it happened. I saw this one in this little list, and I actually don't know what is here. I just kind of took the image and put it in the tier maker. Hello, Nighty. So, okay, well, how do you consider it? Okay. Post-second beta adjustments and additions coming to the official release. Early access for Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising starts on December 11th. To get you ready, here are all the new changes, the changes and new features we've added to the game since the second open beta, held in November. Yeah, this is post-second beta. This is not quite, like, reactable Raging Strike and stuff like that, right? Post-first beta saved this game from death. Yeah, I am aware that there's one that, yeah, like, throw windows were reactable and Raging Strike was unreactable, and it was just all around a much weirder time. That is not here, but that was definitely, like, that's a patch. That would be, like, up there in the GOAT tier with the only other patch going in there. This is, I guess, you could view this as the patch that added Nier to the game. So, like, that, you know, I don't know if I want to hold that against this patch. Release Nier is obvious, like, it's one of the worst mistakes a fighting game has ever made, I think. So this is the patch that put her in there, but I don't know if, you know, Grimnir, he took a while to become a problem. That's fine, and he was never near, like, he wasn't 1/10 of the problem that Release Nier was, right? Best patch, little guy, I guess so. Added random select character Lunalu, sure. She was buggy for a bit, but fine. You can, yeah, system voice announcers can be swapped out. Executing a Raging Strike has a voice line. Brave counter against Raging Strike has a voice line. Buttons for throw and dash can be unassigned. Implemented several balance changes. I wonder if we'll get to see those in any kind of detail. Hello, Midnight. New feature, added frame information to the display menu. I mean, that's great, right? Added quick command list to the display menu. All characters come with a character explanation. Oh, that's okay. That's nice. They come with basic combos. That's nice. Character strategy to situational training. Matchup training to situational training. Right, yeah, this has been around for a while. They updated this recently in the Galleon or the Wilderness patch. I forget, where they added, like, some punish training and stuff, but... lobby features, fast travel, standby stations, Granblues, crane minigame, spectate feature wasn't a thing. I mean, okay, a lot of this is pretty foundational, right? Players can now interact with arcade machines in the lobby. Yeah. Lowered some sound effects, other minor bug fixes. Granblues, I just don't care. I don't think anything with Granblues. The game didn't launch with these things. The game launched with these things. They weren't in the second beta. This first patch we're looking at is post-second beta adjustments. From second beta to official release. They added arcade mode, versus mode, story mode, replays, journal, figure studio, ranked. Okay, I mean, this is it's a little bit weird, right? Because, like, yeah, it's got ranked matches now. Like, they added ranked. It's pretty huge in many ways, right? Match history, lobby avatars, character levels, follow lists, rupee shops, options, dailies. Okay, I think a lot of the stuff, it's like, yeah, we added ranked matches because it was an open beta and we didn't have it. I don't think I'm really gonna count that, but maybe. But, like, this is a really big one. For example, you could Raging Strike multiple times in a single combo. Because if you don't know right now, when you Raging Strike twice, the first Raging Strike has, like, the big launch, and the second one just kind of, like, takes them up and sends them right back down, and you can only follow it up with a Raging Chain. That wasn't a thing, apparently, in the second beta. Who would have thought? When Raging Strike is used twice in the same combo, the second Raging Strike now results in a shorter knockback. Shorter knockback prevents the use of a short range, standing heavy, close heavy, meaning the combo can not only be followed up by Raging Chain, and only be possible for players to land a long series of alternating close heavies and Raging Strikes. Close H Raging Strike, close H Raging Strike, close H Raging Strike, SSBA. Yeah, it's a good change. We implemented fixes to reduce instances of input buffering, accidentally activating Raging Strike when the meter is at 25% or below. What? Do they mean Raging Chain? Or did Raging Strike... What? I don't actually know what that means. 6XL used to do 1,000 damage? Yeah, no, for sure. Decreased damage from 1,000 to 600. That's a good one. Yeah, it didn't use this before it scaled combos too, right? So, yeah. Slightly extended buffer windows for Brave counters against the Raging Strike. Makes it a little bit easier. Adjusted cooldown times for all EX skills. Throw breaks on aerial throws can now only be performed using the throw button, so you can't tech with a... I didn't actually know this. I didn't know you couldn't tech with a strike. I guess that makes sense. I've never done it, but I don't know why I thought it was possible. Yeah, you can't tech with a strike button if you get thrown in the air. Following the beta test, we implemented many character-specific balance adjustments and fixes. Below are just the major changes. Grand's SBA, increased duration of the initial attack and decreased duration of the second attack. It's easier to land both hits at a distance. Okay, cool. Vasarago's Soul Forge, shortened recovery, only can cancel into Soul Forge. Excludes sweep attacks. You couldn't do this before, huh? Okay, cool. You Empty Hand, they made it a reversal. Cool. Since it's no longer invincible on startup, Empty Hand will now fill the SBA gauge on hit or block if it was not cancelled into. Oh, it used to just be a reversal. Oh, my bad. Oh. I thought they gave this the invincibility. No. You Empty Hand used to just be a UDP. Ah. They made it so it's after the leap, and then because it wasn't technically a DP anymore, they made it so it refunds. That's a great change. Holy fuck. I mean, again, if you know anything about Seox when he came out in this game, he was, like, on release, he was an absolute menace. The idea that you Empty Hand used to be a U, like he had a UDP and a U parry would be crazy, right? Wow, yeah, right, this is not the patch that makes Raging Strike reactable, yeah. And then Neela, you over the fence, limited recovery time upon landing the leap, sure. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know, right? Obviously, like, this patch added, like, ranked matches and, like, training mode and shit, right? So that's obviously huge. But outside of, like, you know, those are just things that wouldn't be in a beta, right? I don't think it was like, they were like, you know what? We thought about it, and we should probably have ranked matches, right? But, like, the balance changes as far as, like, you know, making it so you can't just loop Raging Strikes over and over again in the same combo without Raging Chain, making it so 6XL didn't do 1,000 damage, you know, probably making EX cooldowns, I imagine, longer, right? Some pretty major either, like, buffs to Voss or nerfs to Seox, right? All of that is pretty good. The only thing, basically, is do you think you hold this against this patch? Because I feel like this patch is either, like, major but good, major and good, or if you're like, well, this is technically the patch that put Nier in the game, then you could argue it as mixed bag. Because, you know, there's a lot of good stuff, and also maybe the most unbalanced character I've seen in a very long time. So, remember when UL214U was a plus on block invincible reversal? What a funny thing Beta 1 was? Yeah. I think... Is it really unfair to just say, well, Nier is... added playable characters Nier, and therefore this patch kind of sucks? I think I'm gonna do that. As funny as it is, I think that is what we're going for. The rest of it's pretty good, though. Right? The rest of it's pretty good. By and large, I would say a lot of the stuff, you know, frame meter, or not frame meter, but like frame display and training mode and stuff like that. A couple good balance changes. Very, very strong stuff. But you did put Nier in the video game, which I feel like I have to hold against you just a little bit. All right, so the Lucilius patch. Lucilius added as a DLC character. He's not like a problem or anything like that. He was if anything, he was a little bit weak, I think, on release, but. This patch, I do want to warn you, there's quite a long history of Granblue patches until we get to the Versucha patch, where mostly these are Nier nerfs, right? Mostly Nier gets nerfed in the patch, and maybe one other thing happens, and then we move forward. In case you're not aware, they added the Fiendrock stage. It's a cool stage. Cool. Arcade mode is a thing. Online lobby, spectate a match midway. That's cool. Cancel spectating a match midway. Lucien seemed happier with pre-buff Lucilius than post-nerf Lucilius now. I'd argue he's probably still better now. I think it's just more so. Humans are loss-averse. We can see Lance nerfs, true. Partners, avatar select screen stuff. Relink, save data link, cool. Fix an issue when viewing the properties for UL's Hanarashi. These are all bug fixes, right? I don't think any of these are, like, too huge. Yeah, it's like, you know, stage wasn't displaying properly, all of this. So for battle adjustments, right? In the Lucilius patch. fixed an issue where after evading a Raging Strike and then consequently evading a projectile, the Raging Strike evade animation would play again. That's really funny. What? I never saw this. I was playing the game, but I did not realize this was a bug that was fixed at this time. So if you dodged a Raging Strike and then there was a projectile coming behind it or something, and you dodged again, you would get like the zoom twice? That's really funny. That's a good change to make. I don't know how often. I feel like that never happens. That double bass boom, yeah, you get like the like twice, right? That, I don't know, even like today, if that wasn't a thing, like I'm sure people would have found setups for it that make it funny or something, but I don't think it's that big of a deal or anything. Fixed an issue where using a Raging Strike on a foe after hit stun would cause the mid-combo version of the animation to play. The mid-combo version being the launch versus the crumple, I guess. That seems pretty important, right? I mean, that's like, that would probably fundamentally change combo routes and stuff. So like two, like, pretty big universal system change, and then like, you know, like bug fix level situation, I think. But Matera, her 2H and her 1H, so her, you know, the different angles on it. Fix an issue, or 3H? Fix an issue where midair counter hits animation would incorrectly play. Cool. Her DP, fix an issue where the game would crash when used with certain inputs in training mode. Cool. Voss's JU, fix an issue where if used right before landing, abilities or skybound arts performed would go in the wrong direction. There's a lot of weird shit that just didn't work on the start of the game, right? Fix an issue where if Narmaya changed stances prior to Raging Chain, her stance would not change. Cool. How's it going? What's going on, man? Hello, Alias. Fix an issue where Sora's SBA gauge would fill twice upon connecting? Oh, that's a big one, right? So he would hit U Rock Smash and he would refund 50 meter. I mean, especially in you know, the previous environment of the game. It's not a copy pasta. It kind of is. It is a Gamera tweet that he put out after the Sandalphon patch, and it was very, very funny. So he would get 50 meter back when he hit his throw bait, huh? Considering how 125 meter combos worked, that is really funny. That's a big deal, right? That actually is. I don't know how often that happened, but Zoe Dragon Gauge. Fixed an issue where the Dragon Gauge has been depleted. After the Dragon Gauge has been depleted and Zoe used Peacemaker's wings, the Dragon Gauge would not recover. Oh, that seems important too. Okay, some of these bug fixes are like character breaking, so it actually is. Oh yeah, they fixed Uno crashing the game with its install super early on, right? This was a super consistent thing you could do, by the way. If you learned this, like Uno could crash the game at will, right? This was not like it was on. You needed on the last spear, you needed to hit someone with a Raging Strike and a Raging Chain or something like that, and the game would just crash 100% of the time for both players. This was bad. I can't remember exactly what the setup was. I remember it was something to do with the very last spear of the install. But like, you know, if he so chose and if he had labbed it out, any Uno could just crash the game at will. So I would consider this, he's the most unpopular character in the game. I would still consider this a pretty major change as well, right? It is just a lot of shit, just like fixing shit that really shouldn't be in the video game, but oh well. This is his U Fireball. Is that different from the training mode crash? No, he could crash the game in ranked, yeah. I remember Uno could crash the game in like a live game for both players, if I remember correctly. I can't remember what it was, but it was something to do with you have to get down to one spear and then do something. And like every time it would crash the game for both players that were playing, which was really, really funny. Fix an issue where technical inputs will still be registered when they've been turned off. That's funny. Wind crest that can't be used with a Gale Dash would appear. That's also funny. What the fuck? Fake seals? It was like 2 spears, you have to 2H the other person? Something like that. Fix an issue where using another Gale Dash after finishing a Gale Dash would cause the follow-up version to activate. Interesting. Fixed an issue where if blocked by skills such as Uno's parry, no hit stop would incur. Wow. Interesting. Okay. So, I mean, these are also, again, all these are bug fixes, but like these are big bugs, right? Like Grim just putting down seals that he can't use, right? Uno crashing the game at will, Zoe losing her dragon for the rest of the match, Sora's getting a free U skill, right? Like, so far, all of, despite, these are pretty big bug fixes, in the sense that, like, they would, you know, these are, like, game-altering bugs, for sure. Like character-breaking bugs. And then, obviously, Nier is the only character that shows up in these patches in, like, a real way most of the time for a while here, but let's see. Added a sound effect for when guard point becomes active, so that's like the little clash sound that you hear when you hit Nier's DP, which she used to have. I forgot that she doesn't do that anymore. Fix an issue where even if Nier has taken damage, Death would activate guard points. Yep, so her DP sometimes would just, it would just work. You couldn't even hit her out of it ever, basically. Like, even if she was middle of getting hit by something, she just, like, DP out of the hit stun, I think is what this used to be. Guard point now ends on the skill's last active frame. So, I believe this used to last all the way through recovery. So, yeah, they nerfed her DP, right? They nerfed her DP, which she, by the way, if you're unfamiliar, at this point, she could combo off of this. This meterless DP was a combo starting move, in case you're curious. Her JU, which used to be an overhead, but that it still is in this patch right here. Fix an issue where if Love's Redemption is used before death returns to a neutral state, Nier would no longer be able to use U skills. Oh, that's fun. That's actually, that's actually like a buff kind of on her, like a bug fix that kind of buffs her a little bit, right? But it costs 1 of 13 stacks. So true. Fix an issue where if blocked by skills such as Uno's parry, the skill animation will play continuously. That's her super. So you could get an infinite super if you you get an infinite super if Uno parried it. Like, it would just, the pillar would just last forever. Uno really did break the game in so many ways. Like, the example, Uno's Arm the Bastion, it broke Grimnir's Tornado, it broke Nier's super, he could crash the game at will. What a guy. This is her SSBA. Fix an issue where timer will continue counting down when used in a combo. I did not know it did that. That's really funny. Black flies as Bubs' projectile. If it connects after you, Karma connects or is blocked, the skill will behave abnormally. Due to this fix, Karma U pulls in an opponent and connects. After Karma pulls in an opponent and connects, only the finishing hits connect. Okay, cool. And then Anthem is his command grab. If used in a combo, damage output is calculated incorrectly. Okay. So overall, like, minor patch, I think. Some pretty big bug fixes, right? To like 3 characters or something like that. There are some pretty big bug fixes to a few characters, and Nier, I mean, you know, it's certainly good that Nier can't like DP out of hit stun and stuff anymore. And that she, you know, there's a little bit of an indicator for when you hit her DP, you know, her DP got nerfed as well, right? So like, I think this is minor but good, right? This isn't like, oh, the game did not feel, besides Lucilius being in the game did not feel that different. But looking at some of those are like, you know, those are big bug fixes to some of those characters. Everything in there is good though. I don't think there's really anything where I go like, well, There's not really any head scratchers there, which makes sense. It's a relatively small patch, right? Lucy patch, I got no qualms with you overall. If we look at 2B, the 2B patch here, 2B added. This, by the way, is still the most popular DLC release ever, I think. If I just like think about how many people were playing the game at this time, how everywhere this DLC character was, and also like I think the Steam player base at the time. This was early on, right? Yeah, it's really funny to hear what people are saying now, because like 2B is such a hated character now. This was Beatrice is Everywhere also true, but I think this was the most popular the game has ever been, except maybe recently. I feel like the Galleon patch, not because of Galleon herself, but because of the huge sale and stuff like that. I think the Galleon patch may have been the most players the game's had. Not outside of like launch. Obviously, like the day it launched was like the peak, right? But yeah, so didn't Galleon bring in the most players? I think it had the biggest delta, yeah, right? Because they had a huge sale. But I think this to me, I forget why this character always rings as the most popular DLC character to me. In my memory. But now everyone hates her, of course. Added as a premium avatar, cool. You can buy her in the Rupee shop. Reduced input delay in the PS5 version. I mean, that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal, I would say, right? That's already, even if that's like a frame or two, input delay is still ass. But I mean, imagine what it was before. Even like a frame or two of difference would be a big deal, right? Added Oceania. That's funny. Added Oceania as a selectable server. Cool. They should reduce the PS5 input delay further. Fair. I don't play on PS5, but added a network quality indicator. Oh, you couldn't tell what the ping was when you saw it. Oh, wow, this game actually was in the fucking Stone Age before the GOAT, right? It's crazy. Yeah. Weekly challenges. We didn't have MS. Yeah, I was playing the game. I just forgot. It's been so long, right? Fix an issue where the player's top versus rank would not affect the DLC character's starting versus rank. Oh, that's a good issue to fix, certainly. Lunalu bug fix, not a big deal. Crossplay turned off. The settings would not be reflected, and they would still continue to crossplay you. That's also, if you don't want to crossplay, you shouldn't crossplay. Those are good bug fixes so far. All of that I would consider as like good changes. Online lobby, cut out a 2B, cool, some profiles, partners, whatever, bunch of bullshit. Nothing too important. Cool, okay. Battle and character adjustments in the 2B patch. Close L's. Extended the reach for some characters so that they're less likely to whiff. What? Again, dude, it's crazy. This is like this is a year and a half ago now, just about. I think this is like February of 2024 or something like that. What? This used to be a thing? Some people will be in the proximity range for their close L, and their close L would whiff? What? Huh? That's a really good change. Hey, Abricolo, Nixie, that is a really good change. That, like, needed to happen. For sure. What? Dude, this game was so funny. Evade. Less likely. It never happens now. So they still whiff? I've never seen a character in proximity range of their close L whiff it, right? But I don't know. Evade. Extended the distance that will trigger the Raging Strike evade animation. Oh, okay, cool. So if you ever evade a Raging Strike, you get the thing. That's good, the slowdown. Added input buffering for L inputs during a crouching L. Really? Inputs can be buffered during crouching L. You couldn't buffer like 2L, 5L? It was like a link before? I guess so. That's a good change. That's a good change, right? It's nice. A lot of characters do 2L, 2L, 5L, stuff like that, right? So it's nice to be able to buffer that instead of having it be a link. That's a pretty good quality of life change for the entire cast. Input buffering leniency. Input buffering upon wake up, landing after mid-air recovery, and grounded recovery have been extended by 2 frames. Oh, this is still one of the harder places to buffer inputs. I think it's like 3 frames versus 1 versus it used to be 1, then it was 3, and I think it's 5 everywhere else, right? So this is quite nice. This meant that, like, you know, Raging Strike setups or anything that's gonna hit you meaty where you have to spot dodge it. If you wanted to spot dodge on landing, if they hit you meaty, it was a 1 frame timing, basically, right? Block button. Fix an issue where pushing the block button simultaneously upon landing after a jump would allow the player to attack 1 frame early. No, you didn't. This is still a thing. Am I crazy? This still does this. Holding the block button at all when you're in the air does take 1 frame of recovery off your landing. Did it used to be 2? This still does this. This is like widely utilized tech. Maybe it used to be 2 frames and now it's 1? So you're gonna drip down the patchery lane? Yeah. No, but you didn't do this though. Either this used to be 2 frames and now it's 1, or this is just a lie. I don't think they fixed this, man. If this is a bug, it's still in the video game today. Cool. Tech inputs. Fix an issue where after performing the skill with a technical input, if the next skill was performed with a simple input, the damage buff would still be applied. Interesting. This is also in the games in some way. I know Ladiva can still do. It's not just Ladiva, but I remember someone found the route with Ladiva where you could carry over the technical input buff if it whiffed. This is so far a bit of a liar patch. I'm not gonna lie to you. All right, Lancelot. Fix some animations. Remove the invincible pop-up. Cool. Flame Carpet. Fix an issue where the skill would repeat its cooldown after the bed of flames wears off. No, please, bring that back. How do they not notice by now is my question. How old is this patch? This is the 2B patch. It's about a year and a half old. 2B comes out in roughly February, no, late February, something like that, of 2024. So this would, like, after the flames went away, it would, like, restart the cooldown. That seems like a great idea, actually. Headbutt of Love. It has guard point against projectiles. Ladiva's Headbutt. It's an anti-projectile move, right? The SBA gauge would fill normally, but during a clash, it wouldn't fill. Oh, okay, cool. Fairy's Dive Kick would cross her up randomly. Cool. Zeta's JU. She could block midair after she JU'd. Oh, that's a good change. Cool. I'm glad she can't do that anymore. The block button thing made fuzzies easier until they just removed them entirely. Yeah. Zeta can no longer block midair after the knee assault. Whoa, wait, these are actually, like, big nerfs. Wait, so the Rhapsody, this is the knee launch. I wanna boot up the game, actually, and show this. Zeta could do her fucking knee launch and then block? I mean, you would 2H her anyway, but, like, that's nice, certainly. Right, she should not be able to block after that. The Air Spear of Arves, combo limit would be higher depending on how high in the air the skill connected. Huh, that's curious. Remove the invincible pop-up if she's doing her SBA in midair. Cool. Narmaya's Stance Swap. When evading during a Raging Strike, Throwing butterfly effect would cause butterfly effect to activate again. So if you got like the slowdown on a raging strike and you stance swapped, it would happen twice and it will basically cancel out your stance swap. That's unfortunate. That's a good change. Fix an issue where countering a close range standing H or crouching H, butterfly stance could activate incorrectly after. Interesting. Kag's teleport. It would warp to the wrong location because the opponent turned around. Cool. And then her air version of her UDP. Hold on, let me turn the audio down here in case, well, if we ever need to show anything, at least have my game open. So this air toilet here, I can show you actually what this move is. If you don't know all of the move names, spare body is Kag's like air toilet, right? It's her air DP. We can bring Zeta here too potentially. Talk about the knee launch that I was referring to earlier. Was Rhapsody knee even that good? No, it's just like funny that she could block after it. She should absolutely be like stuck in the animation forever, right? It's more just like the fact that she could block after at all is a very silly idea, right? The fact she could like do that, and then like if you tried to like air to air her, if you tried to like MDP her or something, like, you know, LDP or something that's like not air unblockable the whole way through, that she could just block it, is kind of funny. Now of course you can just 2H her and she dies anyway, but this is spare body, by the way. This is H spare body, this is U spare body midair. So she can't block midair until after she lands the skill. Also good. That means if you spot dodge this and like, you know, hit her with anything, she's dead, which is good. Appears in front of her opponent when their back is to the wall. I guess it's used to steal the corner? That's funny. Fix an issue if Kag's opponent performed an attack at the correct timing. Their attack would still whiff despite the hitbox overlap. I guess the invuln lasted a little too long. Sure. Also, Seox could block out of the faked empty hand. There's a lot of good things that he should not be able to do this with, yeah. They made U Orkin more consistent. I feel like they then made it less consistent. But they made U Orkin more consistent as a combo tool for Siegfried in this patch. Cool. Grim Voidlight Erasure, which is his little air orb. Again, he can't block until he lands the skill. This is like a universal change, it seems like. There's a lot of like air mobility skills and stuff like that, where they made it so you couldn't block until you land, right? Like, even if I hold the guard button here, he can't. He doesn't like do the little guard animation. That's a good thing as well, by the way. Midair U seal place. In order to fix an issue where the SBA gauge would be depleted, but a crest would not appear if used just before landing from a jump, Grim now won't land until the skill finishes. Okay, cool. The great block killing patch? I guess so. Gale Dash in install. In order to fix an issue where the install gauge would not deplete if Gale Dash is performed while atop a Wind Crest, an upper limit has been set to the number of mid-air Gale Dashes Grim can do during the install. What? Okay, cool. Nier. Again, this is, yeah, Nier shows up in this patch. I don't think... Oh, yeah, no, she did get nerfed, yeah. Pain is her 5U. Fix an issue where if used right before landing, or her JU. Skills and Skybound Arts formed to go in the wrong direction. Cool. There's a lot of characters got this kind of like, they got crossed up for no reason sort of thing. All of her skills, plus skills, and ultimate skills, except U Misfortune, are now air blockable. Again, if you wonder why this was, it's because, I mean, well, one, it just meant that, you know, Nier was getting, like, insanely good combos off of anti-airs, but also, like, anti-air with skills. But also, you know, if you've played this game for any amount of time, you may be aware that characters anti-air with their DPs rather often, right? The thing is, obviously, again, release Nier had a DP that she could combo off of, so if she hits you with this in the mid-air, she would start a combo. She had an invincible, like, frame 1 invincible anti-air move that if she hit you, you would get comboed for it. So it's just like a 2H, but like, imagine a 2H, but 100 times better, because, again, 2Hs start up in 11 frames. This is like, you know, sometimes someone, like, jumps in on you, and you're, like, kind of late to the party. So, like, you're like, ah, shit, I can't, you know, I'm gonna have to anti-air with a DP here, because I'm too late on my 2H. Like, if I 2H'd, I might die, right? So I have to DP instead. Nier didn't have to pick that. She just DP'd and then got a combo anyway, right? DP is kind of like usually the lower risk, lower reward anti-air. 2H, the higher risk, higher reward anti-air. Nier got to do both. All of her skills, plus skills, and ultimate skills can be blocked in midair. They took everything on her and made it air blockable. And she was still the best character in the game in her own tier by a country mile. Like, we've seen, again, they made it so she can't DP, so far. I just want to point out, like, because Nier, until we get to the Versuja patch, Nier is the only character that changes in, like, really major ways, right? So far, we've removed her ability to, like, DP and hit stun, basically. We've made it so her DP, the guard point on her DP ends sooner. We've made all of her skills except her UDP air blockable. Right? Death would mimic her. Death would jump after near here. Cool. And so far, this character is still the best character in the game, literally so far in her own tier that no other character is even worth discussing as far as power level. In case you're curious. Which is, again, why I put the patch that put her in the game in mixed bag, honestly. Yeah, okay, cool. Fix an issue where if Nier cancels the counter animation, the SBA gauge penalty would not activate. What? Cool. This is Avatar's Air Super. Remove the invincible pop-up during the skills activation cutscene. Sure. H Misfortune would still parry, lead to a full combo here if you tried to do a jump in. Yes, but you could at least air block it. You could still combo off it, yes, but you could at least air block it now. Which, if you air blocked it, I believe she was usually somewhat minus. Not usually punishable, but somewhat minus. So, like, it was a thing where, because I remember this, it's like, you could block it and Nier will be safe. You will block her DP in the air, and Nier will be safe on block, but you at least wouldn't eat a full combo. If you just empty jumped in on her. Right? Cool. This is a weapon skin bug fix. Cool. I mean, that's a good patch, right? So again, some of those Nier changes definitely needed to happen. Some good universal things like not letting people block where they should. This feels like a pretty big deal. This is nice. Again, I don't know that this is like, oh, the game is, you know, totally different or something afterwards, or like even that many characters got changed in a meaningful way. This is like, it's like a moderately big patch. You could put this at like the bottom of major, but I feel like it's still most things are still the same. Most characters are the same before and after this patch, right? Introduced 2B. It's fine, right? The patches earlier on in the game's lifespan, they were definitely still trying to get a sense of what was going on before they like did anything big. The only like really big thing they were doing every patch was Nier kept getting nerfed and nerfed and nerfed and nerfed and nerfed, and it still wasn't enough, right? Let's talk about the Vayne patch. There's one very important thing that happened in this patch that I remember that is probably going to put it in major by itself. Vayne's here. He sucked. He's either the second or weakest DLC character release ever. It's him or Vikala. They were both very bad on release. Vayne got a lot of love since this, and he's still only like fine. So you know, Vayne sucked. That was unfortunate. Updated the command list to reflect battle adjustments. Cool. Combo practice tab. Yep. They updated character guides to, you know, change how things worked. Some online lobby issues. Some set phrases couldn't be used in the guest book. Granblues. Literally, who gives a shit? There's a lot of Granblues changes, I guess. If you care about Granblues, that patch seems kind of major. Some lighting fixes. Yeah. Regional pricing. This is probably a bad thing, right? This probably sucks, right? Depending on where you live. Did this game get like 20 times more expensive in some parts of the world on this patch? In my head, regional pricing is always a bad thing. Like when I hear that word, I go, oh no. It got cheaper for me? Oh, okay. Wait a second. Rare footage of regional pricing not just be gouging everyone to pay 80 USD? Okay. Yeah, so this is like the first, I think, big patch that we have, right? Regional pricing helps countries with weaker currencies? Not always. Not always. Good to know that this was like actually like going the right way. Usually makes it cheaper? Okay. This update makes adjustments to -L, as well as several adjustments of certain character skills. The Vayne patch in my head is kind of the first one where something big happened, right? 6XL now causes more knockback when blocked. I still remember when we were labbing this out like the day after the patch came out. It's so normal now, right? Like it's just what the move has looked like. It's what the move has looked like for a year and a half now. The Vayne patch is March of 2024. But like, you see that little like slide that you do at the end there? This didn't used to happen. 6XL would leave you like in close normal range, if I remember correctly, right? Like how, like if you did it like point blank. Like this little slide, I remember we were all talking about like, oh, that looks so weird, right? Like it's like this little slide back that happens after they block. And we're like, oh, wow, it took some getting used to, right? Now it's been the way that 6XL looks for the past year and a half, right? But like, you would 6XL a motherfucker and get close L afterwards. A lot of the time, right? Like a lot of the time. You would 6XL and get close L afterwards, which is crazy. Yeah, so that's a really big deal, right? Again, 6XL is another one of those things. It's been nerfed very often, and it's still insanely good, right? 6XL on if you don't like 6XL as it currently exists, that's fair. But also, dude, this game was night and day on release. This was not a fighting game on release. This was a party game on release. I swear to God, I liked it. I still had fun with it, but it's because I didn't know anything, right? Luckily, no one knew anything. But like in hindsight, this is a fucking party game on release. Dash L will now cause more knockback when blocked. Cool. And characters whose dash Ls were significantly different in terms of move speed and reach got nerfed. Most of them. There's a couple exceptions. But Rising was a Kusoge? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Executing a Brave counter when the opponent's HP was low. Oh my god, this is the patch that made it so you couldn't be put on chip by BC. Oh, the Vayne patch is going in major and good for sure. Dude, the Vayne patch was awesome. Yeah, if you don't know... Oh, dude, I just forget how much bullshit was in this game on release. My god. I actually forget. If you didn't know, you could... Back in the day, so Brave Counter does a little bit of damage, right? It does 500 damage. It used to... Oh, right, she's baiting my shit. Yeah. It used to do damage all of the time, no matter how low your health is, right? Right now, BC does 500 damage. If you're, like, higher on HP, you take that 500. This used to do that damage regardless, right? Which meant that it was very... Like, it was not an uncommon scenario where you had a little bit of health. You decided to run pressure, right, on your opponent. They Brave countered you, which Brave counter at the time was also plus on block. Brave counter was plus on block for a large majority of the game's lifespan. But Brave counter was plus on block, and if you got hit by it, then you got put in a checkmate. You got checkmated for running offense on low HP, very commonly, right? This felt unfair in some instances that it did that. Yeah. Below 500 health, Brave counter no longer deals damage. Characters that players felt had ultimate skills that were difficult to use have been strengthened, and skills that were difficult to respond to have been adjusted. Oh boy. Alright, let's see exactly. So, 6XL. Hitboxes have been adjusted since some characters whiffed more easily when their opponents was crouched. Oh, this is Far L. Yeah, a bunch of Far Ls got changed to be better against crouching opponents. This is actually quite nice. By and large, all the characters that got this needed it quite a bit at the time. I remember Zoe got something like this. I think Catalina got something like this. Ladiva got something like this. A couple other characters that we're going to see as well. And following up a 2L or a dash L would not chain into a combo for some characters, so input timing has been adjusted to be earlier. You could basically... I think this gave like characters like Vasaraga and shit the ability to cancel into their Far L, despite the fact that it wouldn't normally connect like for the really slow ones, right? The really slow like 2Ls and Far Ls. Dash L. The hitbox on the inner side has been extended to minimize whiffing when used as a follow-up. Sure. The hitbox on the bottom side has been reduced to make it possible to counter them with low-hitting moves such as 2Ls. Extended the hitbox during startup and active frames. Both players knocked back on block, and they added 5 frames of whiff recovery. I know 6XL does not have a lot of whiff recovery. It used to be even better. This used to have 10 frames of whiff recovery. It has 15 now. They increased this by 50% in the Vayne patch. The total thing is 25, but it used to have 10 frames of recovery. It has 15. People thought this would let 2L beat 6XL. It depends. I mean, certain if we actually look at the hitbox on some of them, right? Like, like you can see that the hitbox, depending on where exactly you're at, if you have like a big 2L, like, the hitbox is mostly just like it's kind of like raised up, right? It's mostly just kind of the torso. 6XLs can unironically be beaten by like long low pokes. Maybe not 2Ls, but like 2Ms and stuff like that can certainly beat 6XLs out pretty consistently, just because their hitbox will reach before the 6XL hitbox reaches, even if there wasn't like a clash thing happening. Yeah, so this is a big deal, right? 6XL got, I mean, it made it possible if you've ever, it's still risky, but if you've ever, like, spot dodged someone's 6XL and punished them for it, right? That is only made possible to this patch, right? It actually, like, just wouldn't happen before, right? It's still, you can still, like, not be plus enough to be punished, or to get a punish, or you could even be punished if you do it reactively, right? But, like, the fact that it's even possible is due to the Vayne patch, if you do it preemptively, right? And also just makes it easier to like whiff punish in, it makes it easier to whiff punish in neutral and stuff like that, right? It's a big deal. This is a big deal. This is a big deal as well. It makes the pressure off 6XL way weaker, and it is still currently very strong, right? They lowered the grounded hitbox, and Brave counter never doesn't checkmate you anymore, right? And then, Grand 6XL got nerfed. Gita got a Far L buff, and her 6XL got nerfed. Catalina got a Far L buff. This is, to me, this is the first time, I think, where Catalina, I look at Catalina and I go, interesting. Catalina was quite bad on release of the video game. This patch makes her much more like of a reasonable character, right? Certainly. But Catalina has an amazing 6XL, a better one than Gran and Jita even before the nerf, if I remember correctly. And hers does not get touched in this patch, which is certainly curious. But her Far L gets buffed. They made it so that her H Fireball launched in this patch, which is something it didn't do before. This made her mid-screen off of auto combo way, way better. So Cat now gets stuff like this, right? And she just didn't get that before this patch, so it made her mid-screen like significant, like actually pretty good, right? 4,400 damage off of auto combo like this with no meter spent is pretty solid, right? Gave her a little bit of carry off it too. And they also buffed her U Fireball. It's got more hit stop. It knocks people back less, and upon connecting mid-air, opponents wall bounce toward the middle of the screen. This is the first of the Jenga blocks, right? History lesson. If you look at Catalina now and what Catalina's become, this is them kind of sliding the first of those Jenga blocks in place. U Fireball, knockback reduced, which means it's much more likely she can convert off of this if it lands. They gave it more hit stop. You know, they made it work even if it hits you in the air, right? Like, you start to see it. Catalina at this point, I think I in hindsight, I was probably a little wrong about this. I thought she was still not very good after these. I didn't quite realize, because I was like, this is nice, but like, eh. People were telling me how scary her U Fireball was back then, and I didn't quite believe them. I was a lot worse at the game back then, is all I'll say in my defense, right? Like I think I'd only recently hit Master, like before this patch comes out or something like that. So, yeah, again, the first Jenga block in the Voltron that is current top tier Catalina that has been top tier for a year gets placed right here with this U Fireball buff, right? Charlotta's U DP was rollable before, so they made it not rollable. Lance's 6XL advanced during recovery, apparently, back in the day, and it doesn't anymore. This character also used to be a criminal until the GOAT patch. Okay, this is where we start seeing characters other than Nier get nerfed meaningfully. Lancelot is also one of the most nerfed characters in the history of the video game, right? I said it before and I'll say it again. Starting this patch, you have a Fantastic Five, right? Before this patch, you had Nier, who was so much better than every other character in the game that you basically didn't have a tier list, realistically. You had Nier at top 1, and you had the entire rest of the game in the same tier because it didn't matter. Like, the difference between Belial and Anila was not measurable compared to the difference between Nier and Belial, right? Starting in this patch, this is where you have, like, your, you know, the Queen and the Elite Four, you know what I mean? You have, like, the Elite Four, and then you have the rival battle at the end. Starting in this patch, you have Siegfried as, like, undisputed number 2, Belial, Seox, Lancelot, somewhere in the top 5 right there, and then Nier kind of like a tier above them in her own sort of world, right? And this is also when you start seeing other characters like in that sort of that group actually start getting hit. What is this? U Vogenstrom. This is Lance's U Fireball. It activates at 18 frames instead of 15 frames. Why does this matter? Well, basically, there were a lot of cases where Lance, in a block string, if I remember correctly, could true combo into this. Could true block string into the U Fireball. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really need any more. This for a certain amount of seconds, I think like 4 seconds or something, doubles the frames on everything you do, right? So there were many times where Lance could true combo into this U Fireball like this, and you just would have to hold it. Now, I believe unless he meaties it or in very certain situations, you basically always can always spot dodge this thing, right? So that's a very, very big nerf to Lancelot's pressure because this move is insane. And the idea that he could guaranteed hit you with it on the regular was not fair. It was not balanced, right? They also took U Blade Impulse, and they extended the recovery on whiff by 9 frames. Why does that matter? Well, let me tell you, young Padawan, why that matters. This move, it's a true block string from close H right now? Yes, but it was a true block string from, like, everything back in the day, I think. Much easier to, like, run up and get, like, 6XL into some bullshit, right? Like, 6XL close M into true block string that or something. So this move is punishable on block right now. That wasn't always a thing, right? It used to be, I believe, safe on block. Maybe even plus on block. This might have been plus on block. I actually forget what exactly this used to be on block. The problem was, if I have Lancelot do this, and I spot dodge it on like a reasonable timing, on like a reaction, right? You might notice that I'm +8 right here. In the current version of the game, I would punish Lancelot with this for a close H, and I would go to town. You might notice they added 9 frames of recovery on whiff to this move in this patch. In that exact situation I just showed, if I spot dodge Lance's plus on block neutral skip on reaction, he would be +1. It would be his turn. So he would do this combo starting plus on block neutral skip. And if I blocked it, he'd be plus. It'll be his turn. If I got hit by it, he would, it'd be like a crumple and a side swap and a full combo, whatever the hell else Lance was looking for. And if I spot dodged it, it would also still be his turn. You may understand this as a move that had literally no counterplay and very high rewards. Yeah, this is a big deal. This gave counterplay to Lance's neutral skip. You now, on reaction, if you spot dodged it, it was a punish. It was a move with risk and reward instead of just straight reward. And he also, pre-U-skill nerf, yes, that's true. Yeah, also, this is before the time where, U-skills used to be able to do this into an SSBA, right? It'd be very easy to, like, combo this, right? And then build enough meter to get a super going, right? Afterwards. So, yeah. Very good to give that move actual counterplay. That Lance was very funny, right? No meterless DP gang was in shambles. Yeah. So it's good to give that move counterplay for sure. So like big Lance nerfs, and like these two might not seem like a lot, but like this made it so he couldn't just true string into his U fireball all of the time, and this made it so he actually had counterplay to his neutral skip. This is like the start of Lance actually gets hit kind of hard here. I think this is where Lance probably becomes number 5 for sure, right? Like in your Elite 4, like this is where like after this patch, I would say you definitely have like Queen Near, Royal Guard Siegfried, and like Belial, Seox, and Lance kind of like kneeling at the throne, but Lance is definitely like number 5 after this, right? Percy gets a bunch of buffs in this patch. He was not considered very strong on the game's release, right? His far L gets buffed. His back throw gives him better Oki after. Flame Carpet now inflicts damage when coming in contact with guard point other than the characters. Interesting. So even if you're in guard point, you still take the damage from this. Cool. When near the edge of the screen, it now deals damage towards the middle. Cool. Schneiden is the low? Schneiden is the low out of the command dash. Is that correct? I think so. Because you need to put spot dodge in the game and then make it useless, but still difficult and dangerous in a bunch of situations. It got a lot better as they went on. Yeah, Schneiden's the low. They made this faster. So this made it combo off a lot more things. I believe this lets him do things like this. Like I don't think that would have worked previously, though I may be wrong. At the very least, off far L, this works as well, right? You can like far L into this. I'm pretty sure that didn't used to work, right? So it gave him much better confirms. This still didn't knock down on without stocks until a while later. They gave him a damage buff on his gun. They gave him the gun in this patch, right? This move did not really used to do anything, right? They gave Percy like the 8,000 damage at 9 stocks gun in this patch, which was very funny. And again, they extended the active frames on his charge. That probably opened up some combo routes, because there's a lot of combo routes with Percy where the end part of the charge hits and knocks the opponent up. So this probably enabled a lot more of those. And they also reduced the recovery. So basically, they increased active time and reduced recovery. Just a straight buff to the move, right? Very nice. Because otherwise, if you hadn't done this, if you just did it like in neutral without hitting someone, it would just be a 33 frame move total, right? So it would be a nerf and a buff. They made sure it was just a buff, right? Yeah. So big Percy nerfs, right? At this point, I would argue that probably Percy is probably not quite as terrible as everyone thought he was. But he still certainly, he gets a lot of buffs later, too, that help out quite a bit. Ladiva gets her far L buffed here as well. Her 2H launches. This opened up a lot of, like, cool combos for Ladiva. Because at this time, her headbutts didn't used to launch. Ladiva's headbutts, we'll talk about it later when they change that. But Ladiva's headbutts would keep you crouching. So if she was close enough, there were a lot of combo routes where Ladiva could, like, hit you with one button, hit you with one headbutt, 2H you, launch, and get a shit ton of corner carry off of that, right? It was a staple in like her high corner carry mid-screen routes. If you wanted like a little bit more corner carry, a little bit less damage, you could do something like that. Light headbutt is a little faster, which helps. I think this lets it confirm off of far L. She can go far L into light headbutt like this. This like reset that Ladiva can do like all the time now, where she does this, did not work before, right? So they gave her that because they do a very similar change to U Lariat later, which is also what lets it combo off this, right? So yeah, this is a pretty big buff to Ladiva as well, right? This is a nice little, this kind of meterless 50-50 situation. She can place you in if she wants to. And then they made her anti-air grab better, right? So some nice buffs to Ladiva. She certainly has never been super good, right? Matera. They buffed her far L. Can now be followed up sooner from 5L, 2L, and dash L. Cool. So she can be chained. This is what lets her combo like 2L into far L, for example, now. Because this used to be a slower, this was an 8-frame move, right? So it used to be that it didn't like literally have, like if it was just based off of linking and stuff like that, or even like canceling in some cases, it couldn't work. So this is where they made it, like normally 6XL is +6 on hit regularly. That's an 8-frame far L, right? So she couldn't get it off 6XL, but they gave her a cancel out of 6XL into it, right? A similar thing I think happened to Vasaraga as well. So yeah, Matera being able to do everything at the far L, this is where that started. Again, you start to see where the building blocks of the current meta that we now know come from, right? The fireball launches now. Interesting. And her UDP can't be rolled anymore. Luang gets the universal far L buff as well. Fairy gets a similar like far L buff that Matera got, where she can like 6XL into far L, despite at this point her far L is also an 8-frame button, right? Beppo, the UDP, extended the hitbox downward, but they still want to be able to roll it explicitly, right? Like they gave this buff to like Charlotta's DP and to Matera's DP. They extended this hitbox down, but they explicitly, intentionally made it so you could still roll this. Clearly it's their vision. Zeta gets her far L buffed and her 6XL distance nerfed. The 6XLs that got nerfed here, by the way, like it is meaningful. Like they were very good and they're a lot smaller now, right? It's just more so that some characters for some reason did not. Vasaraga again gets the same far L buff. His close L also gets a cancel property, gets a 7-frame close L, right? What was that universal change that let characters cancel 6L into close mediums? Oh, we're getting there. That was the Rasuja patch. Yes, that was the greatest patch in the game. I have one tier here called the GOAT, and there's a reason that it's the GOAT and not goated. But yeah, so Voss gets a cancel property on his 2L into his close L, and also the same thing that Matera and Fairy got, because his far L is 8 frames. They make the cheeks significantly faster, 22 frames on crouching foes. So the cheeks, Vasaraga's overhead out of his dash M, is a significantly more difficult reaction check now. This also starts the trend of Vasaraga getting buffed every single patch that, again, you can start seeing the Jenga blocks. If you're familiar with Granblue today, you can start to see Jenga blocks being placed with how we got there, right? But yeah, they made his cheeks 22 frames here, even on crouching opponents. They made it so he could act out of stance significantly faster, 4 frames earlier. Vasaraga was the biggest winner of this patch, if I recall correctly. They made it so he could act 4 frames earlier out of his light stance, which opened up combo routes and pressure routes. 6 frames earlier out of his medium stance, which again opened up a lot of good pressure options for him. It forced stand for his H Savage Rampage, which is good because if you don't know, the crouching follow-up, or sorry, the light follow-up here whiffs for Vasaraga. So this gave Vasaraga the ability, even if he hit you crouching, you stand up and he can do that, right? So gave Voss a much more consistent way to convert shit in the mid screen. Like if he did like this, that wouldn't have worked before this patch, right? How often do high-level Voss players use 6XM these days? Not very often at all, very rarely. But again, it's like if your opponent, if there's a lot of stuff on their mental stack and they're low on health, you can just end the round like this, right? Whereas before, 25 frames was a significantly easier reaction, right? Depends on the Voss. Yeah, Fuse uses it all the time, but he's just having a good time. But yeah, so like something like this wouldn't have worked before this patch, right? Voss would not have gotten that follow-up. Yeah, they changed some inputs for him walking. You just hit once instead of having to dash. Used to be to actually walk forward in his like if you were here and you had to walk, you'd have to hit the dash button. You have to like hit forward or the dash macro. Oh no, it doesn't work on the dash macro. I'm wrong. Yeah, you'd have to hit forward. Now it's just you hit forward once, right? And it works. Yeah, and again, the walk as well, even outside, like, so if you did this, it forced a stand, so you could do that again, right? So if Voss caught your toes, you could do this, right? Gave Voss much more combo consistency as well. Voss can cancel Savage Rampage by tapping or holding the block button, right? So this, you ever see like a good Vasaraga just fucking twerk on you in the corner, doing shit like this, because they know they're so far in your head that you're not gonna do anything? He couldn't do that before this patch, either. Yeah. His M command grab got buffed in combos, and his U command grab actually got nerfed, I guess, where sometimes it wasn't applying the penalty. Like he would still get gauge after normally, right? But Voss gets buffed a lot in this patch. At this point, Voss is still only like he's fine. He's still decently not great. He gets 2 more big rounds of buffs, and then he becomes the monster that we know him today. But Narm 6XL gets nerfed. Sora 6XL gets nerfed. His Pharrell, again, gets that same kind of buff, gets a 7-frame Pharrell, so it wouldn't connect naturally off 6XL, now it does. His U-Fist, apparently, if it hit you behind, this patch, I remember being confused by these patch notes when I was reading them when they came out. If he hit you from behind, like if you extended your hitbox cross-up, and he anti-aired you with this, or something like that, it would, like, draw you forward and do some weird, like, bug combo that it doesn't do anymore. And his UDP, can't be rolled anymore, right? Zoe gets a Pharrell buff. This is like still the best thing they've ever given Zoe over the course of the game. Like this, you know, this is probably the biggest buff Zoe has ever received, which is very funny. That was a big Sora's nerf. He had one of the best 6XLs. Yeah, now his 6XL is pretty... But by and large, like all of the 6XL nerfs here, they were very good 6XLs, and now they're much more middle of the road. This is a good thing. The weird thing is that, like, Belial's not on these patch notes. Catalina is, but her 6XL is untouched. There's a lot of very good 6XLs that for some reason remain completely untouched. I mean, Zoe's does too, but like maybe you could argue she needs that shit. UL gets her 6XL nerfed as well. Anila gets her 4L to extend the hitbox downward. Or no, this is Andre, sorry. Yeah, which is also nice for him. Oh, this is... I think Uno's actually maybe the... He got some nice buffs in this too, right? Because his U-Rakshasa got its damage reduced, but it became a combo tool now. Right? So like the thing where he can do like U fireball into U spin or something happened in this patch, right? So Uno, this is actually a pretty big buff to Uno's ability to like combo off of if he like caught you in the mid screen or something like that. Where is Andre? Good sir, where are you? Am I going bonkers? Does the game get easier after hitting master? You don't have to worry about demoting anymore. But no, you probably are a little bonkers. Right, by him doing like this. There's a spacing to it, but like Uno he can do like U fireball. I mean, even just U fireball into U fireball like this, he couldn't do before. But yeah, it's not like he can do into U spin there, and then it can wall bounce you. He can start a combo from hitting you with his U fireball all the way over here, right? Again, that is not a thing that he used to be able to do until this patch. And even just being able to do, you know, some shit like that, right? He couldn't do either, right? So that's a pretty big buff to him. Also, they buffed his U wheel. They made it even more. Plus, they made it even, you know, even better for follow-up on hits. They gave it less recovery. They made it leave him closer to you, and it's plus, so that's a good thing for him, right? So yeah, very, like, big Uno buffs. Uno probably the second biggest winner of this patch, I think. Which is funny, because I think Uno was good forever, but... Seox gets his Pharrell buffed as well. And now, again, see, this is where you see those Royal Guards, right? You have your, you know, Nier gets nerfed heavily in this patch. We'll get to that in a second. Right, but we saw Lancelot getting nerfs. We see Seox getting nerfs here too, right? Gate of Demons used to stay on hit. So, you know how, like, right now, if for some reason, like, you know, Seox runs up to you and tries to do his H fireball, and, like, you hit him, right? Like, if he does, you know, something like this, and you hit him for some reason, you know, the fireball goes away, you win that trade if you catch him out on the start of it. It used to kind of function how Lawaine's U fireball functions now, where like you would hit him and you would still just trade into the fireball and you would die. So there, you know, yeah, there wasn't very much counterplay to this besides like throwing it or something like that. So yeah, that's a very big nerf for sure. Oh, also, it has whiff recovery now. This move, if this whiffs right now, Seox, he's stuck for 54 frames. They added 6 frames of whiff recovery to this, meaning that basically, I mean, what is that? It's like, I mean, most of this is the startup and the projectile, right? The whiff is like, this is like look, I'm trying to look at it right now, like, so, like, when he like, that, the fireball just hit, right? So we're talking like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames where he's in the air, but actionable, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, oh, 10, no, 9. Oh, right, okay, no, for sure. Yeah, they said to 9 frames. Yeah, this used to have 3 frames of whiff recovery. My bad. Yeah, it's written right here. I was trying to, like, back calculate it. But no, this, like, he could just do this move. You couldn't hit him out of it. You couldn't whiff punish it. He just did it, and it just, you know, he could move basically immediately upon landing. You couldn't hit him out of the fireball, because the fireball would just trade into you anyways, right? Yeah. Very good. Same thing for the air version, by the way, which is even better, right? same thing. You just throw this out, and he could move as soon as he landed. Not only did this make it so, again, you couldn't, you couldn't really do anything about this in terms of, like, challenging it, but also, there were a lot of cases where Seahawks could do this, and then, like, fireball drive rush behind it very easily, right? Like, even from, like, up close like this, it would land, and it'd be significantly easier for him to do some shit, even on whiff, right? Like, even if it's gonna whiff, he could still, like, run after it significantly faster, right? So this is a really, really good change to this fella. And then this is a bug fix to his super, right? You start to see, right? You start to see a little bit of, like, these characters actually starting to get nerfed a little bit, right? The sort of, like, the god tier characters of early Rising start to get touched in the Vayne patch, right? Characters whose names aren't just Nier. Oh, no, Anila is the second biggest / maybe even biggest winner of this patch. This is, like, the last time Anila got, like, big buffs, actually, yeah. They give her 666H, as it currently stands in this patch. Yeah. And they give you Sheep as a combo starter, right? And they give her the ability to hit confirm into 5U everywhere. Ooh, it's Anila or Voss. I forget. Yeah, this is, like, whatever strengths Anila currently has were given to her. However good or bad you think she is. The little bits that she does have was given to her in this patch, right? Yeah, like this becoming a combo tool off anything, right? Happened in this patch. 668 as it currently exists happened in this patch, right? This is like a meterless hit confirm happened in this patch. Yeah, Anila gets a big buff too. Siegfried, this is our royal guard, right? We have our Queen Nier sitting on the throne. We have Siegfried as undisputed number 2, and we have Belial, Seahawks, Lancelot somewhere, 3, 4, 5. Sieg gets his 6XL nerfed. This was an insane 6XL, and it can convert off it very well. It's still very good, right? It's very funny to think about the fact Siegfried's 6XL is, I think, either this one or Nier's, I think, was the best one in the game straight up in terms of range before this happened, right? Because you might notice, Siegfried still has a pretty good 6XL, right? Like his 6XL is still in, like, the upper half of the cast, for sure, right? It got nerfed pretty significantly in this patch. The other thing, they took down the active frames on U Verdrängen. This is the U Slam. You may not have seen this move ever, unless you watch Scavengers play at Evo, because no one uses this thing anymore. But this move used to be the devil. It used to have 3 active frames instead of 1, and they gave it 2 extra frames of recovery. Why does this matter? Well, I don't remember the exact setup, but basically, I'm killing Lancelot. But basically, if I remember correctly, if I give Lance his HP recovery back here, Sieg could do something kind of similar to, like, this, right? It was a different setup. It wasn't just like auto comp. Maybe you would, like, yeah, you would wait to recover, I think, or something like that. There was some sort of setup that Sieg could do into his U Verdrängen, which I want to remind you is fully unblockable, right? It's fully unblockable, and right, this thing used to, like, 125 meter combos used to be a thing, and U skills used to not scale combos that they started, right? So if you got if you like tried to spot dodge this on landing or something, as you might expect, you would get counter hit by this into quite literally the highest damage combo in the video game at the time. This was a combo that on 0 BP with 3 Dragon Stocks did 28,000 damage. The combo that started with this thing right here. Now, here's the funny part. The only answer to this setup, if I remember correctly, was to DP it. Now, you might be wondering, what if you don't have a meterless DP, or your meterless DP is like an armor stance or something like that? Well, you were guaranteed dead to this. Didn't Sieg have true unblockable setups? Yes, this is what I'm talking about right now. If you couldn't DP this on landing, this was a guaranteed kill, basically. Because this combo used to do, like, it did like 11, 12k on 3 BP, right? So if Sieg ever hit you in the corner, you couldn't spot dodge it because it had too many active frames. If you did the setup correctly, it would catch the end of your spot dodge. And even if you, in a lot of cases, even if you did spot dodge and they fucked it up, because of the low recovery on it, he would still be plus, and sometimes he didn't get to punish you, right? So if you didn't DP this, if you couldn't DP this, either you didn't have the meter for your meterless DP, or you just didn't have, or for your meter DP, or your DP was on cooldown, or you were just dead. Siegfried guaranteed unblockable you into, again, something in the realm of 9 to 12,000 damage, depending on if it was counter hit or not. And there was no counterplay. Siegfried was, far and away for me to say that Nier ever had a losing matchup early on in her life. However, strangely, this was like the one sort of like type advantage boost. This is like the one, like this is like the stab attack boost against Nier. You know what I mean? Like he had super effective against Nier because Nier had a meterless DP, but it was a guard point stance. Unblockables killed guard points. You can't guard point through an unblockable. So weirdly, Nier couldn't DP this at all because even her U DP was still guard point. So this move was actually specifically very, very good against Nier because she would have to super. If Nier did not have 100 meter to super, every time Sieg hit her in the corner, he guaranteed you Verdrängened her, right? Now again, far be it for me to say that like, oh, Siegfried was maybe like a losing matchup for Nier. Maybe? But like, I don't know about all that, right? But he at least had one thing that was very good into Nier. Very, very good into Nier. How did it interact with parries? I believe parries would actually get it. If it wasn't like armor, then it would work. I think like Rhapsody might have died to this. I think Rhapsody is armor, not a parry technically. But like something like Uno parry would just beat it, right? Uno parry would beat it. A regular DP would beat it, something like that. But if you had like an armor stance and not a parry, then you would die to this. You cannot armor through unblockables, right? Universally. Yeah. So this is a really good change because again, this is like Kusoge shit. Like this is on over half the cast, and even if you had a meterless DP, if it like wasn't on cooldown or something like that, if it was on cooldown when he hit you, right? Again, this was absurd, right? This is one of the stupidest things that a character has ever had. But it was one of the stupidest things a character has ever had. And this is a very good patch. This is a very good thing to get rid of for Siegfried here, right? This move was ridiculous. This is one of the big reasons that he was the undisputed number 2, right? Though there was another thing that he keeps for another about 5-6 months. But yeah, Nier, her far L gets the buff, universally. It's a universal thing. Her 6XL gets nerfed. I believe this was the best 6XL in the game, I think. Parries are considered armor in that instance? I mean, we can try it out right now. Like, can Uno parry Siegfried's Verdrängen? I think he can. If he can't, this is even better than I remember it being. But I believe Uno can parry this. What? Why can't I switch to the... Oh, do I have it on controller? Yeah, there you go. I believe Uno can parry this. Oh! Oh, my bad. Yeah, no, you guys are right. Yeah, this is even better than I thought it was. Yeah, you actually needed to just have a DP. I know Nick and I tested earlier this week. Yeah. This is even better than I thought it was. Yeah, the U parry works. Gotcha. Because that's like... Yeah, okay. Wow. Yeah, this was basically checkmate against like a lot of the cast. Unless you specifically had a meterless DP, not parry, you either had 50 meter when Siegfried hit you or you died, right? Wow, okay, cool. So yeah, Nier gets the best 6XL in the game, reduced quite a lot, right? Here's something funny. Reduce the hitbox bottom to longer connect against crossover, so you couldn't roll Nier's DPs before, right? Reduce the hitbox on the inner sides, less likely to connect when overlapping with death. Okay, except for you. Cool. Yeah. Can no longer be used to start a sequence of buffered skills. If you don't know what Misfortune is, by the way, in case, because Nier is not very common anymore, this is the point where Nier, I think I would argue Nier stops being literally the only character in the game in this patch, right? This is Misfortune. It's her DP. It's not a DP anymore. Nowadays, only this is a DP, right? But this used to be a meterless DP. It could be used to start a sequence of buffered skills. Nier did very, very high damage as well, right? So you would get DP'd by Nier, and she would hit you for like 8,000 damage, unironically. On top of all of the other shit that she has, it still did not get taken away from her, right? But this is it's pretty fucking huge, right? Now, to be fair, it was slower, right? It was slower back then, but like, you would get hit by this, right? Like, you would get hit by this a lot. You could safe jab it, right? You could certainly safe jab Nier's DP pretty easily. But like, if Nier caught you 6XL pressuring her, doing anything but safe jabbing it, anything like that, you were going straight to hell, right? She got gutted from top 1 to top 1. I actually think this is meaningful because Nier was still obviously the best character in the game after this patch. You could argue that at this point Siegfried joins her in top tier. There's an argument there. You could argue that Nier is undisputed top 1 but Siegfried is undisputed top 2 and in the same tier as her. And then, like, Seox, Lancelot, Belial are kind of like the obvious top 3, 4, 5 or something like that after her, right? This is the point where you could argue that there's actually a character in the game that is obviously worse than Nier, but compares to Nier, right? I think this is useful because Nier did not get gutted from top 1 to top 1 here. She got reduced to top 1 in this patch. She was not top 1 before. Genuinely, despite, outside of the fact that none of us knew how to play the game, I don't think that before this patch, I mean, you could even argue even worse before the 2B patch, where all of her skills were air unblockable, including her DP. But before this patch, there's a very solid argument that Rising did not have a tier list. Right? There's a very solid argument that Rising's tier list was Nier and everybody else. It, like, almost didn't even matter. Like, if Siegfried was number 2 and Anila was bottom 1 or something like that, the difference between those two characters was smaller than the difference between Siegfried and Nier. Right? So, like, you could all, like, it matters because I think this patch gives Rising a tier list where the strength differences between characters actually matter because Nier is not just so much better than every other character that it doesn't matter, right? Yeah, because, again, Nier is still top 1 for another 6 months with this, but she had all the stuff we're going to talk about in the Versuja patch, and she could combo off her DP, right? And she had the best 6XL in the game as well. And her 6XL was uniquely, significantly better than most other characters because of how good the conversions she got off of it were. And a lot of characters didn't even get any conversions at all after 6XL, and, right? So yeah, this is a big deal. She can't combo off her DP anymore. Yeah. Oh, right, no. And this too, yeah. You Ominous Turn. Increased Nier's recovery by 6 frames, cool, but also, if the opponent is not blocking or being hit, the rear hitbox on death has been removed except on activation. As a result, it should be easier to cross over or evade. What does that mean? Why would they? I forgot about this. Nier had so many stupid things. I forgot this didn't used to be a thing. This move was technically rollable before this patch, right? You could, like, if she just threw this out at you, oh, my bad. If she just threw this out at you, you know, you could roll it. I have Uno set to roll on too much of a delay. Actually, it's probably easier if I just put Nier on the other side and I have her do the things. Recording people to roll is always weird, right? Like, you could do this, you could roll, right? It was possible. However, 2 problems. 1, it was usually very, very difficult to actually roll through. Most of the time, I believe it was something like, depending on spacing, there were some spacings where it was literally impossible, and on a lot of spacings, it was very difficult to roll this. And you might also notice that on that roll, which was relatively early, I'd say, I'm +3. They added 6 frames of recovery to this. That means that previously, Nier would be +3 here. It would be her turn for me rolling this. So even on that roll, even if I succeeded, like, the 1-frame link roll to get past this, it was basically, I just walked up to Nier and let her be plus in my face. And most of the time, this was just a U skill that you just kind of held, you know? Nier, if she didn't want to play neutral anymore, and she had the best neutral in the game, bar none, but if she decided she didn't want to play neutral anymore, she could just do this and run up, and now she's running pressure on your ass, and her 6XL would have reached from there because it was way bigger back in the day, right? So if she didn't want to play neutral anymore, she would just do this, right? And then she'd be running pressure on you, and there was nothing really you could do about it, right? This was, yeah, just the best neutral skip in the game, by quite a while. Yep. And Death was invincible the whole time. There's really anything you could do about it, right? So they gave this U skill counterplay as well in this patch. By the way, again, just in case you weren't familiar, this remains until, again, about 6 months later. I keep referencing the 6 months later guy. I wonder what happens here. About 6 months later. Until then, this remains like the 5th best U skill in the game or something like that. With number 1 being number 1, in my opinion, before this, probably number 1 was this guy. Probably number 2 was that guy. And then number 5 was this thing, right? There were a couple of other very, very strong U skills back in the day, but of the top 5 U skills, Nier's like 3 U skills that weren't her DP were 1, 2, and 5. If you wanted to be generous, there was a solid argument that they were 1, 2, and 3, even after this. But yeah. Even after this nerf, this remained, like, straight up one of the most broken U skills in the video game, right? It just actually had counterplay to it. This is also a combo starter on hit, and, right? So yeah, Nier becomes a character in the video game in this patch. And I don't mean that in the sense that we usually say it, where, like, this person wasn't a character before and now they are. No, I mean that, like, Nier becomes not immortal, but like a demigod, if that makes sense. Like, Nier after this patch is a demigod, you know? He falls from heaven, and she's still walking amongst mortals as a creature with a divine spark, but she is walking amongst mortals, right? After this patch. Yeah, Bubs gets a Pharrell buff. Belial, of course, gets a bug fix that buffs him in this patch. Belial, this character, remember we were seeing, right? I talk about the Royal Guard, right? I talk about Queen Nier, Royal Guard Siegfried, and then like the Royal Knights, Belial, Seox, and Lancelot, right? And, you know, in this patch, we see Nier gets hit pretty hard, still insanely good, but like gets hit pretty hard. Siegfried loses like the dumbest thing that almost any character besides Nier. That unblockable setup was the dumbest thing that any character besides Nier ever had in the video game, right? Lancelot gets nerfed pretty heavily. Seox gets nerfed pretty heavily. Belial gets a bug fix that buffs him. This pattern is going to continue, by the way. It continues for a while. Avatar gets some buffs. Avatar gets his Rekka, gets more distance to help it convert off some things. The M Rekka becomes a frame trap off 2H. And his Fireball also gets a little faster to become a better block string tool. Avatar Belial, at this point, is still, in my opinion, the worst character in the game. Straight up joke character. Spends his health to do less damage than most characters on average do. Just pathetic, right? Pathetic ass character. But, you know, some good buffs. You know, some stuff here. It's kind of cool. 2B, I believe, gets nerfed? Yeah. Right? 2B was very, very strong on release and incredibly complained about. The patch after she releases, she gets some changes, right? Howdy, hello, T-Spin. Gauge recovery speed reduced while the opponent's blocking or being hit, right? So she can't, her skill gauge comes back slower while she's comboing or while she's running pressure, right? Which means she can run out of it more easily. Her auto combo reduces the amount of skill gauge as well, right? Yeah, these are big, yeah, that's a good point, Pomebeard. It is important to note these are like big skill gauge changes, right? Yeah, like it is like half? That sounds about right. I don't actually know what the number was, but I remember at the time, the before and after was like crazy, right? These are big nerfs to 2B that they give her here. Now, this gets buffed, which is funny. That's certainly cool. And then this is a bug fix. And then the bomb, A130 bomb, this is her like multiple balls, like U super, right? And it reduced hit stop on all but the final hit, so that you could actually brave counter the previous hits, right? So 2B gets nerfed pretty hard in this patch. This is our first major patch, for sure, right? It's major and it's good. Everything that happens here is great, right? A bunch of Pharrells getting like quality of life fixes to make them much more consistent. You know, combo route consistency being sort of like flattened among characters, because very important to note, all these like, you know, oh, they can now go 6XL into Pharrell or something like that, right? There exists kind of a caste system in this game before, about 6 months from now, believe it or not. Like, you know, where, like, you know, Vasaraga got this change, right? If we go, or like Matera got this change too, right? Where? Yeah, this, right? Can be changed from short range L or crouching L, and also, I believe this was 6XL as well. I know the same thing for, yeah, Fairy and Matera as well, right? They got cancel properties out of these. There was kind of a caste system in Rising before and after, well, before the Versucha patch, where some characters got 6XL into close M. If you had a 6 frame close M, you got 6XL into close M, and the rest of the cast didn't. Some of these characters didn't even get far L, right? Like mostly, Ladiva, for example, will get like 6XL into far L, you know? Nier will get 6XL into close M, and it didn't scale combo, so it was an insanely good combo starter, right? Sora's would get 6XL into close M. Belial, 6XL into close M. Ladiva, 6XL into far L. A character like Fairy or Matera or Vasaraga, 6XL into literally nothing. There was no conversion off of it, right? They couldn't do anything off it. So you start to see them kind of flattening the reward off of 6XL a little bit, right? To make it so it's not just this like insane tool for some characters and like kind of okay for the rest of the cast, right? But yeah, this patch is great. Everything about this. The Siegfried nerfs, the Lancelot nerfs, the what's his fucking name? Seox nerfs, right? Like, you know, Nier, obviously, whatever the fuck was going on with that needed to happen, right? A bunch of good buffs, some Vasaraga buffs, which at the time were definitely good and needed, right? Like, Voss was not very good on release, so, like, you know, it was nice to give him that, right? Anila became, like, a functional character in this patch. This patch ruled, right? The Vayne patch it's a big deal. Oh, Brave counter not putting you on chip anymore. Jesus fucking Christ, right? This patch was awesome. This is a great patch. And again, this patch gave us a tier list. You have to put some respect on the GOAT. After this patch, it like made sense to make Rising tier lists, whereas it at the time we thought it did, but in hindsight it really didn't, right? It really was just Nier and everyone else, right? The lance nerfs from that patch definitely needed to happen. Yeah, like the U Blade Impulse and like the U Fireball, he can't like just true block string into U Fireball all the time, and U Blade Impulse actually has counterplay in the form of spot dodge. Very big, right? Very big and very necessary. Back then, Lance was a terror, right? All right, so great patch. Beatrix patch. It's a weird one. I feel like, you know, this patch is interesting because it's not very big balance-wise, but of course Beatrix gets put in the game in this patch. And if I'm gonna hold the post-beta patch, if I'm gonna hold the fact that it put Nier in the game against it, I feel like I have to do a similar but smaller thing here. However, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, I will, like, desperately try to remind people that I do think that people were slightly overplaying what release Beatrix was at the time. She was very good. She was very good. But, like, this is a different video game, man. This is still a video game, like, Nier was still obviously a tier above Beatrix, for example. I think Nier was obviously a tier better than Beatrix when she came out, right? You could argue that Siegfried was too, right? Now, I'm not saying that Release B was balanced by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that people, like, slightly overstate what this character was on release, right? Did she do the most damage in the game? Outside of Siegfried in certain cases? Yes, probably, right? She was the highest damage character in the game, for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Nier and Siegfried both could compare in weird ways, but like on just the raw number consistently, Beatrix was number one, for sure, right? Did she have some really, really dumb shit? Yes, but again, she came out in a different video game. You put Release B out now, she's like in her own tier, top one. But Rising was a different game before basically the Versucha patch. It was a different game, right? But sure, Beatrix was not very well balanced on release, certainly, right? The same way that, like, Seox and Belial were problem characters that definitely needed a nerf, and it was, like, dumb they were in the game in the way that they were. Beatrix was of that power level, and it was dumb that she was in the game at the power level that she was, right? So this is, like, a very, very, very popular DLC release. People were so excited for her when the trailer dropped, everything. I remember so much. People being like, oh my god, I love it. My girl, she's in the game. I love my girl. I can't wait for my girl to be out. Like, 9 hours after the patch actually dropped, everyone was like, what the fuck were they thinking? Remove her from the game immediately. I hate the fact that she is here. Like, it was the quickest turnaround I've ever seen, right? I still reference it every now and then to, like, you know, like the B patch is like, people were so excited for B, and then they fucking hated her. With good reason, for sure. But it was just funny to watch, for sure. So that's something, right? Dash macro gets added for backdashing, which is pretty big, right? That's certainly, this is, I personally use this. I never backdash. I never backdash intentionally, right? I never backdash intentionally with back. I know a lot of people do, but me, I use the dash macro all the fucking time, right? So that's like a nice quality of life, a very, like, big quality of life feature, certainly, right? This is a big deal too. I remember this was meaningful. You could feel this before and after, right? It was much less common before this patch and after this patch that, like, an S rank would, like, run into, like, an S++ or a master randomly in matchmaking, despite the game having a pretty healthy player base at the time, right? So this is nice, right? This made ranked a lot more actually skill-based matchmaking, right? Now, you know, this thing where, like, most of the time when you're playing ranked, you are going to fight someone in your letter grade at the very least. Like, if you're an S rank, you're going to mostly fight other S ranks, right? Maybe, like, the odd A rank or S+ if you're playing at, like, 5 a.m. or something like that. That wasn't always the case, right? So this is a very, very good change. This is great too. Masters start at S+5 now. They used to start at S5, right? They slowly did a lot of work to, like, remove the smurfing in the video game, like, make it harder. This is one of the first really big steps towards that. This is a great change for the rank system as well. Lunalu cannot be limited to a pool in ranked matches, which is good. It's not really that big of a deal, but, you know, it's kind of, you know, if you're gonna actually random, don't be a pussy and just random to your main and smurf. It's another problem where smurfing, you could get your character to master and then go into ranked on Lunalu and say, like, got a master Belial, right? You go into ranked on Lunalu and you start at S5 and you set Lunalu's pool to only be Belial, and you are just a master rank Belial fighting S ranks, right? So this is also a very big anti-smurfing measure. Now it's like, if you're gonna Lunalu, you're gonna Lunalu. It's gonna be random. It's gonna be set to the whole pool if you're in ranked matches, right? Yeah. These are like missions that they added. It's not really that big of a deal. They made the dailies a little bit less brutal. You know, 5 stages, 5 items versus 15, 10, stuff like that. Not that big of a deal, right? This is really nice. I forgot this wasn't a thing. Holy shit. Yeah, when you're in a room, you can just training mode on standby. That's nice. You can always do it in ranks. This is also very nice, right? Oh, they fixed some frame bugs. That's nice as well, certainly. Yeah, and they added Lance's costume. So, battle adjustments, right? Backdash, you can throw tech with backdash now. If you hit backdash during a throw, you got a throw break. And also, they universalized throw invincibility on all backdashes. Because some of them, for example, you know, weren't airborne, so they wouldn't be throw invuln, right? So they universalized that backdash is throw invuln from frames 3 to frames 18 for all characters. And I think they also universalized all backdashes to 18 frames in this patch. This is good, right? In general, it's just taking some jank out of it, right? The opponent's flashing white when you hit combo limit is also added in this patch. Quality of life, but like, you know, good quality of life, certainly, right? Like it's just nice to understand, you know, like when you're new to the game, it's like, oh, like, you know, when you hit combo limit, the opponent, I can actually do a near combo that hits combo limit, or am I that ass? I might be that ass. Oh, he can't Raging Strike! Oh my god, I tried to extend the combo and I with a Raging Strike, and I forgot that you can't fucking do that, man. Oh, okay, maybe not near. Get me Gran in here, I'm too stupid. I'm too smooth-brained. But yeah, like, you know, this whole thing where your opponent, like, shows up, they turn white like that, they flash white when combo limit hits, that got added there. So it makes it a little bit more clear when it happened, right? Along with the pop-up and everything. So, and the message also, they made it a little bit more visible. Just easier to understand, because a lot of people early on, combo limit was very, like, mysterious to a lot of people, right? So this tried to make it a little bit more clear as to when it was happening, right? I wasn't playing at this time, but the fact that it didn't flash white is actually strange. Yeah, this is a good quality of life change. This is not a quality of life change. It's like a very important mechanical one, but it's also very good that, like, it's just universalized. There's not like, oh, well, this one character actually has a non-throw invuln backdash that lasts 24 frames or something like that. This is good, right? Yeah, you can see all the ones basically who didn't. Lowain, Grim, Belial, Avatar, Lucilius, 2B didn't have, they were grounded, they didn't have throw invincibility on their backdash. They now do, from frames 3 to 16, my bad. Yep, Nier got another nerf, a small one at this point. They had hit her pretty hard in the Vayne patch. They were waiting, but yeah, sometimes you could combo off of her UDP. The Nier players, they never stopped labbing, man. They, like, I remember at the time after the Vayne patch, we were like, oh, this character might be, like, fine now, right? Because we didn't realize the Niers labbed a bunch of other crazy shit. We were like, oh, they just, like, didn't need to use any of this before because the character was so broken, but she has all this too? So yeah, apparently there were some cases where you could fucking combo off her UDP as well, and obviously all the U-skill stuff got found later too, but yeah, yep. They made her SSBA parry a little bit more consistent, and they nerfed Vayne. This was really funny. This was really funny, right? Because, yeah, Vayne used to be able, if he absorbed enough hits with his 5U, which was a complete joke move, even if he absorbed all these hits, you'd never get hit. But there were cases where Vayne could one-shot. The damage, because the more damage he took while he was 5Uing, while he was, like, charging up, the more damage he would do with his slam, and it was uncapped. So he could just, if you hit him for long enough, he could one-hit KO you, right? This, like, never happened. And, like, yeah, they just nerfed Vayne, who was, at this time, obviously the weakest DLC by a mile. Especially, it was very funny that Vayne and Beatrix released back-to-back, right? It was very, very funny. So yeah, I mean, this patch, the rank changes are very, very good. There's some nice quality of life changes, like the universalizing of the backdashes and stuff like that, right? It only needed to have Nier use like 8 multi-slashes without realizing. Oh no, poor Nier. Right, but like, yeah, like there are a bunch of good changes, but then also there are, you know, Beatrix is a pretty big fumble of bounce, and she required an emergency patch, which we're about to talk about right now. So I feel like you could probably put this in mixed bag as well. There's not that much good stuff in here, basically. If there's a lot of good stuff in here, I would have been like, yeah, who cares? Beatrix wasn't like that bad. But like, there's a pretty unbalanced DLC character that comes out here, and then also, you know, the ranks changes really are the only like really big like cool thing in here, right? The Beatrix emergency patch. I mean, we could talk about it. This is what this little potato B here is meant to signify. This is a patch with only Beatrix in it. And basically, riding free got made air blockable. Really funny to think that it didn't used to be. Damage reductions on like everything. 200 damage off and riding free. It was air blockable. The low profile starts earlier. And it's minus on block. I don't know if you, this is really funny, but if you don't know, If you you know, maybe you've heard the campfire stories or something, but this move, this move right here, used to be plus on block, +2. Now, I guess it was reactable, but like, what are you gonna do? React and jump over it? It was air unblockable, right? The only counterplay to this, which did exist, and it was real, but it was very hard to do, and it definitely should have been nerfed, is you could, because this move did have that, like, the 28 frame startup, you could throw Beatrix out of this on reaction, right? Now, it was very hard to do, because this was, like, low profile, even a DP or something, like, throw was your only option, but you could do it. You could do it. Otherwise, there was not really any counterplay to this. If this sounds familiar to you in some way, shape, or form, you're probably slightly over-exaggerating it, but yes. So yeah, that's minus now. H riding free, 300 damage off. So far, 200 damage off this, 300 off this. Also air blockable. Reduced knockback when blocked. This used to be unpunishable for some characters. Fairy, Matera, stuff like that. People with like a small 6-framer couldn't punish this before. It was straight up unpunishable. Beatrix had like actual, like she had like an actual like 9-1 matchup against fucking Fairy or something like that. Because Fairy was also very bad back then, right? So Beatrix was like a top 3 character, Fairy was like a bottom 5 character, and she had like specific things that only worked against like Fairy and other characters, right? U riding free became punishable on block. It wasn't before. They reduced its damage by 600, and they made sure that it, you know, again, Fairy and Terra and all these people could actually punish it. Her DP, Sapphire Slice is the follow-up to riding free, right? Also made it air blockable. And yeah, it reduced the knockback distance, and when you use it as a follow-up to this would like sometimes actually push you out of the range to punish it, despite it being like -12, depending on what character you were playing, right? It's not a true block string anymore, so you could actually do some like weird frame trap shit, I guess. That's like something, it's like a weird compensation thingy that they gave her, I suppose. Because you would never do this normally, because this used to be plus. So it not being a true block string is actually kind of a good thing, but it's a very high risk kind of thing. And again, damage down on her Fireball, right? Damage down on her U Fireball, damage down on Thunderbird, damage down on M Thunderbird, damage down on H Thunderbird, reduce the back blast on the rocket launcher, right? The big problem, besides this, right? The big problem with Release Beatrix was that her damage was just absurd, right? Obviously this too, right? This being plus. So, like mostly what they did is they just took her damage down everywhere, and B still hit very hard after this, by the way. She was still a very high damage character after this patch. Oh, they made her far H hit? No. Lower hitbox size reduced, making it hit crossovers. Making it not hit crossovers. You can roll through Beatrix's far H, can't you? I'm pretty sure you can. Yeah. This used to catch rolls. I think that this is a translation error. I think this far H used to catch rolls, and it doesn't anymore, is what this is saying. Which is also a big deal. You know, that's some serious privilege right there for your far H to catch rolls. This is also a very big one. Delta clock gauge now refills at 1/3, roughly, the speed, while performing a delta clock skill. Why does this matter? B gets clock when she's in SSBA range, right? When she's in SSBA range, B gets clock. And, you know, when she uses a clock skill like that, it starts cooling down like this, right? And after a certain amount of time, she can use another, if enough time passes, she can use another clock skill. There were multiple combos that B had, if I remember correctly. At least one that I can think of, but I can't remember what the routing for it was. Where she could get clock twice in a single combo. That combined with her already incredibly high base damages, and the fact she could get Fireball twice in a single combo too, because Fireball was a grounded combo extender at that time. Yeah, like it was really funny, right? Yeah, this character shits out damage in a way that really only like Dragonstock Siegfried could compare to, right? Yeah, so I mean that I would consider it, since it's only an emergency patch to one character, I would consider it minor, but like it needed to happen, right? She would have just gotten nerfed in the Versuja patch if it hadn't happened then, right? But like it had to happen, right? It had to happen at some point. And people were so incensed over Beatrix that it, you know, kind of had to happen immediately as well, I think, right? So minor patch, but like obviously a good thing. So I'm just gonna do this right away. This is the best patch in the game's history. This is the best patch that I can think of in recent memory playing fighting games. And when I mean, yeah, this is we'll talk about it in some detail. This is a huge patch. So it's going to be the rest of these are not very big and also recent, so we don't have to talk about them in as much detail. Most of the rest of like this stream is going to be talking about this probably. But I just want to preface this by saying that this is called the GOAT, not goated, not the GOATs. There is one patch in this game that deserves that moniker, and it is the Versucha patch. This is, yeah, just straight up the best patch I have experienced as a fighting game player in the past 10 years, right? Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising is a video game that you could actually probably play and like recommend to people after this, and it really isn't before this. Like, it's fun. I liked it, but like it was a Kusoge before, like damn near, right? 1.5 Belial. It's a dream compared to what we were before, right? Like, I'm not saying this patch was perfect, but like, yeah, even that is nothing compared to what was happening before this in the video game, right? Let's talk about the GOAT. Let's talk about the GOAT. To even like bring up Belial's state in 1.5 as like some kind of, nah, man, like it's night and day, right? Versucha is a pretty strong DLC, though it took a while for people to get that and understand that, including myself. I was definitely late to the party just because the general way that I evaluated defense in the video game was wrong, right? What constituted good and bad defense was wrong, and when I like figured that out, turns out a lot of characters are better than I thought, and Versucha was one of the bigger benefactors of this sort of change in mindset for me, right? But this character is very strong and has been strong for a year, right? This character has been top tier for a year. Certainly, like, you know, a little bit of a on the fuckier end of the DLC releases, but it took a while for us to get there, at least, where everyone recognized it and was taking advantage of it. But yeah, Grandmaster has been added. There's a mixed bag here. I think this is a good thing. I know a lot of people like don't like how Grandmaster works and they like other changes to it, but I do think it's good that it's at least there, right? It could be implemented better, but it's good. I like Grandmaster. Overall, I'd call this a positive, right? The battle season system got implemented in here too, where like you get the rank resets in Master every little bit. This is very nice because it meant that you can't just like, if you like just got to Master and Sprite has been grinding up gems since the game launched and he's got 55,000 gems, you were never ever going to catch up to that guy, right? This is also, again, good rank change. You can see the ping quality in online lobby matches, right? Yeah. The Robomi, like, you know, reflex minigame got added. Who cares? Who cares, man? Versucha got added in arcade mode. Again, kind of who cares? Some extra stages. There is a lot of Granblues in this patch. I literally don't care. So I'm just going to scroll right past it. Okay. So, let's talk about the greatest patch in fighting game history. Maybe. At least that I experienced as for any of the fighting games that I've played recently. Well, I say recently. Again, like in the past like 9 or 10 years. Refined overall game balance. It was the best patch because of the Granblues. True. Listen, I'm sure if you play Granblues, you tell me if those are good changes or not. System-wide, for universal actions, the focus was put on making it harder to convert advancing attacks in mid-range combat, such as ultimate skills and dash L, into significant damage. Differences in each character's respective concepts and traits, such as hit confirming and extending combos from U skills, directly affected the rewards when landing one. We've aimed to correct these disparities. On the other hand, all characters can now connect dash L into close M. You might be like, what? They buffed dash L? No. The top tiers were already doing this. They just made it so they weren't uniquely privileged in doing that, right? Scaling has been increased, which is great. This used to 6XL did not scale combos before, which is crazy. So like this is a nerf to 6XL for the top tiers and a buff to 6XL for the bottom tiers, which is great, right? Like Nier, for example, it hurt. Oh well, she's not top tier after this patch. Play that for free. But Belial, Sora's probably not. Sora's pretty good. I don't know. But like Belial, right? His 6XL is just strictly worse after this patch, whereas it's better for a lot of other characters, right? This is a very elegant way to at least make 6XL, while it's still very strong and very crazy, it's at least equally strong for everyone, right? U skills have made easier to punish. Yeah. Raging Chains were adjusted to make 2L into Raging Strike a little bit less of a, you know, like very low risk, high reward kind of thing. Let's talk about it, right? So you can cancel 6XL into close M. Every character can do this, no matter how slow or fast their close M is. To this day, for example, Vasaraga has an 8-frame close M, and he can do this too, right? You can do this too, right? Voss has a 6XL is only on non-counter hits. On non-counter hit, 6XL is +6 on hits, right? And Voss has a 8-frame close M, but he can still do 6XL into close M, right? It is a cancel, not a link. So everyone can do this, right? Very nice universalization of all that. Sora's got hit more by the U scaling than the dash changes. Yeah. But he could do 6XL close M as well, right? He had a 6-frame close M. He was one of those characters. Gran did, Jita did. I didn't know this? Yeah, it's a cancel, not a link. So no matter how slow your close M is, every character can do this, right? He always had that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So he got hit by this, and that it was less special what he was doing afterwards, right? Because he had a 6-frame close M. So yeah, Voss and Raga even can do 6XL close M, despite the fact that his close M is like altogether too slow to work on the frame data there, right? And also, it applied 70% damage scaling to any following attack, which meant basically the way the combo scaling works in this game is the first hit does full damage, second hit does full damage, third hit is 70, fourth is 60, fifth is 50, sixth is 40, seventh is 30, eighth and on is 20, with some exceptions. U skills have a minimum 40, SBAs have a minimum 50, right? But yeah, so 6XL will basically be your second hit, and the third one will be 70%. This is very nice, right? It's very nice. It meant the damage off 6XL starters is significantly lower than it used to be, right? 6XLs would used to just give you basically like a full auto combo starter, which was a lot of damage. Performing a jump attack during the ascent of a jump or high jump now counts the third hit, applying fourth hit 60% damage scaling to any of the following attacks. This is like their first attempt. You can kind of see it now. With the benefit of hindsight, you can tell the Granblue devs did not like fuzzies, right? They didn't like fuzzies, and this was their first attempt at like really making it a lot worse. When you hit someone with the rising part of an overhead, which is mostly only going to be done during a fuzzy, your combo gets scaled heavy, right? This is why, for example, fairies like JL GG loops do like no damage at all, right? Any Raging Chain performed after the second hit of a combo now has 50% damage scaling. So what does this mean? I was confused by this at first, but I now, after like, just playing the game for longer, I know what this means. Specifically, if the first hit of your combo is a normal, the second hit is a Raging Strike, and the third hit is a Raging Chain, right? The Raging Chain does significantly less damage unless it's after a Guard Crush inflicted by Raging Strike, right? So, like, this is, like, doing stuff like this, was very, very common. And it still is, right? Doing something like this, right? You see how that Raging Chain did 500 damage? You might notice that Raging Chain normally, I guess it works off even this, right? Second hit of a combo as well here. How do I show, like, an unscaled Raging Chain? Yeah, I guess it's always just going to, yeah. But it used to do more damage. It used to do more damage. So doing something like this, right, is a lot less rewarding than it used to be, right? Even the close M is getting scaled there, right? 1100. Oh yeah. It starts. This is I remember now, this wasn't explained. Yeah. It starts 50% and it goes down from there. The close M, despite being the third hit of the combo, right? Despite being the third hit of the combo, is doing like 40% of its damage, right? So if you go 2L Raging Strike, Raging Chain, or some normal into Raging Strike into Raging Chain, then it scales the combo heavily, right? These like sort of loops of Raging Strike, Raging Chain, normal, Raging Strike, Raging Chain used to be a lot more damage, even if they were off like a little toe tap at the beginning, right? If it Guard Crushes, it does more. You're probably right. They did specify that as an exception, right? Yeah, there you go. 1,000. Yeah, there you go. Right, because it's the first hit. Yeah. So this is also a very nice thing. It was a little cheap sometimes to like 2L someone into Raging Strike and then just kill them from like 7,000 health on almost any character who could close H after, right? You would just do like 2L, Raging Strike, Raging Chain. That by itself would be like 2,500 damage. Your combo would only then start scaling and, So this is also a very good universal change. U skills made it so that U skills also provide that same damage scaling to the start of the combo that 6XLs do, right? U skill starters were kind of the talk of the town in the previous iteration of the game before this, right? Sora's is a huge benefactor of this. He had a lot of different U skills he could use to start combos. And you might look at that and be like, well, wait a second, that's a lot of damage, right? He got 7.3k in the mid-screen right there for landing a U skill. What do you mean this is less damage than it used to do? Yeah. Right? Yes, it is. This is less damage, significantly less damage than Sora's used to do off of this. He would do closer to actually, I think, like 10k or something for hitting you with a 2-2U like that, right? So these are still very good starters in general, these skills, but they are significantly worse than they used to be, right? They also, when starting a combo with an ultimate skill, the SBA gauge will fill more slowly during that combo, What does that mean? That means that characters used to, Sora is another example of one of the ones that I knew about. Where's my bagpipes? Get me back to the bagpipes. Is that bagpipe or is it an organ? I actually don't know. It's some beautiful instrument. But yeah, so Sora used to do something like this, for example, or you could go this, 2H, Raging Strike, right, and then just like extend. However, and like by the end of this combo, he would have, I think it was actually, it was this, 2H, Raging Strike, like that into super or something like that he could do, right? You could basically start with a U skill, build up into that, you would spend 50, you get 25 back, and you would build the other 25 normally over the course of the combo and end in an SSBA, right? So these were like devastating combos. Almost every character's optimal used to be one of these, right? It used to be like U skill into like some crazy follow-up into a Raging Strike into, you know, an SSBA ender, and it'll be like 1100, 1200 damage. Very common for a lot of characters to do that much damage on 3 BP, which is much, much rarer now, right? You did like 100 on the dot on the final close H. Yeah. Sora's had a more specific one, certainly. Ladiva had one too. Ladiva's, funny enough, was not her optimal because she just did so much damage in other ways, but a lot of characters would do just absurd amounts of damage off of these U-skill starters, especially if they were in the corner. It scales, and you can't get 125-meter combos anymore unless your name is Matera or Lowain. Both of those should probably go away, but oh well. This is mostly a Vera nerf. This is only a Vera nerf. If you, or I guess Fairy as well. If you use a super to start a combo, it applies huge scaling to it, right? I don't know if this affects Fairy's super. I know it affected Vera's install super. Vera's install super did a lot less after this, right? And then on wake up recovery and mid-air recovery, pressing the block button while inputting an attack will now prioritize the attack without blocking. Dude, I remember this being like a very important point of contention. There was an OS that you could do with the guard button that would block if they meted you and mash if they didn't, or something. Like, I forget. Also a CAG nerf? No. CAG would never start a combo with a super, would she? I don't think. I guess if she... Are you talking about like SBA into a trap behind her or something? I feel like she didn't really do that often, right? Yeah, it was a mid-combo extender, yeah. But if she hits you with a raw SBA with a trap behind you or something, that's not very common. But yeah, this is like the guard button OS. I know it's been gone for a year. This isn't... We are now a year ago, right? This is a year ago. So I forget what... This was... Yeah, there was some sort of guard button OS that existed, right? So overall... Brave counter, very noticeably absent from these patch notes. However, insanely great system changes, right? Insanely great system changes overall. Personally, for me, I liked the damage of the game being high. I liked 125-meter combo, stuff like that. I just mostly wanted U skills to be a lot higher risk to them, because a lot of them were very, very safe. This is a decent path to go as well, where a lot of them are still pretty low risk, but the reward is, you know, lower as well, but still a good move though, because you spent 50 meter on it, right? So overall, amazing system changes here. But it doesn't stop there. Oh my Jesus Christ. Okay. Isn't that change the reason guard button delays buttons by a frame now? Maybe. You might be right. I actually don't know. Maybe that'd be cool. That'd be cool if it added a little bit of tech. You might notice that every fucking character in the video game got a change in this patch. Pretty much. I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 32 characters. I think there were maybe like 33. There might be one character who's not in these patch notes. I actually don't know. Maybe every single character is in them. Not everyone got like huge changes, but everyone got something meaningful at the very least, right? I'm just gonna go through these relatively quickly, or else we're actually gonna be here all day. Like, reviewing this patch would take four hours, right? Gran got a bunch of consistency on his DP. They buffed his fireball. They buffed his JU. Most importantly, Gran gets the 5U that he currently has, the way it exists currently. They give that to Gran in this patch, right? So this is a big Gran buff patch, right? Gran being kind of like the very strong character that he is today starts here, right? This is where that becomes a thing. Subbrick, I think I might get back into Granblue, so true, Spartan. Thank you for the 4 months as well. Jita gets nerfed pretty hard in this patch. Jita, we kind of talk about, Jita's kind of like outside of your Elite Four. This character was also very good. She loses wall bounce on her Rekka, is the big thing here, right? Is the big thing, which was, they also give her 5U as it currently exists as a compensation buff, kind of, but the wall bounce loss was a really big deal. Her damage is a lot lower in the mid-screen on average, right? Jita gets hit very, very hard in this patch. Catalina I was talking about those Jenga blocks, right? They placed that first Jenga block of U Fireball in the Vayne patch, right? Here, or was it the 2B patch? It was one of them. This is where Catalina becomes a top tier, and she has been for a year, right? Not only she gets a bunch of different buffs, 6/6H buff, whatever, Fireball buff, or M Fireball's a gun now. They added armor to enchanted lands. The important thing is that the way the Catalina Light Wall currently works starts in this patch. So now, both of the Infinity Stones, all 2 of them? That's a weird thing to say, but all 2 of the Infinity Stones are in her possession now, right? She has her U Fireball, working the way that it works, and she's got the Light Wall to extend off of it, and she's got the Light Wall as a BC bait, and the U Fireball as a neutral tool, and all of this. And they gave her, like, they buffed her mid-screen earlier. This is where, like, it all coalesces to reach a critical mass, where Catalina is just this kind of, like, ridiculous character that she has been for a while, right? Charlotta gets a bunch of stuff, but I don't know. Like, she gets she gets like her demon flip lows plus you know, her far H is still ass. Her 2H gets some more uses. They make her Blanca Ball a little bit better. They make Sword Lumiere a little bit better of a pressure tool, right? Her parry's still terrible. Charlotta gets some stuff, right? Her demon flip wasn't always plus. The low was not, no. So like they just like buffs to Charlotta for sure, right? With Surest Strike, this is the one right here. Charlotta, she's kind of, she's better after this patch for sure, but she's still a little stinky here, I think. Lancelot. This patch, wasn't there a Holy Ladder change? Was there? I don't think so. You're thinking of the Sandalphon patch, I think. You're thinking of the Sandalphon patch where they touch a lot of the, oh no. Descent now causes a grounded hit, giving Charlotte more plus on hit on her DP, sure, right? Lancelot, this is the patch that dismantles most of the Royal Guard and the Queen, right? This is that patch. This is that patch where, after this patch, the power level between the top tiers and the rest of the game gets squished down a lot. It has been growing recently, in recent patches. It is now bigger than it's ever been since the Versuja patch, but still much smaller than it's ever been since before the Versuja patch, right? But this is the patch. This is the patch where they take the Brahmin casts and they take them out back and they shoot them in the head, right? Lancelot already got some pretty major nerfs, like we talked about in the Vayne patch. He gets hit real hard here, right? What happens to Lancelot? This is an important one, so we'll go over it in a little bit of detail. 1, he loses 1,000 HP. Big deal, right? I will never, ever, ever stop stressing how important just raw HP is the number for characters in this game. It's one of the reasons that Sora is as good as he is. It's one of the big reasons that Vasaraga is as good as he is. It's one of the reasons Lawayne is, like, maybe, like, unironically a top 3 character. Losing 1,000 health, big nerf. Big deal. Already. If he had just lost that, it would be a big nerf. However, this is also the patch that makes Lancelot's 5L the worst light in the game. Increased recovery by 2 frames. Not only does it mean it's only +2 instead of +4, but it also means that Lancelot can never, ever, 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 ever bait a Brave counter, no matter what he does. They didn't make it. They didn't give it extra range though, right? And so you can do 2L, 2L, 5L. But like this is huge. This like, boop, this button gets shot in the head, right? SBA gauge on his close H. He gains less SBA gauge. Hello, Miyato. How you doing? This is big. Lancelot would build, he would fit a bunch of these, and it was a multi-hit. So Lance would build a shit ton of, he builds a shit ton of SBA gauge in his, what patch is this? Versuja patch, the patch, right? This is a big deal. It's a big deal. Let's see, what else? They actually buff his 6/6H a little bit, right? They buff his M Fireball a little bit. These moves really weren't seeing any use at all, right? U-Blade Impulse. Recovery increased by 2 frames, and pushback after the follow-up has been adjusted to be closer to landing. Ah, I see. I was a little wrong on the history. U-Blade Impulse was not plus on block, but it was safe on block. This is the patch that fully, right, makes this move punishable on block, right? U-Blade Impulse is now punishable on block, -6 over to -4 last patch, outside of throw range, right? So it was safe on block before. And it makes it even more punishable on spot dodge. So that thing I showed earlier where I was +8, Lance actually wouldn't have been +1, he would have been +3 right there. Lance could punish you for spot dodging this very commonly back in the day. But now it makes it even more punishable on spot dodge. It makes it punishable on block, right? So this move stops being a neutral tool entirely, right? This is the patch that turns U-Blade Impulse into a combo extender and only a combo extender, right? This is just like, there's no use for this thing besides like a combo extending kind of side swap restand tool for Lancelot, right? Yeah. Buffed Emreka, again, a very underused move, so they're trying to give him a little bit. Lance gets hit really, like, Lance is bad for a long time after this patch, right? It's only recently where he kind of gets a lot of good stuff again. Again, a reduced SBA gauge gain on his Rekka. right? A few changes to Turbulence. Again, wasn't really used that much, right? The follow-up to Turbulence, Groundbound Heights increased. Was this a lie? Lance is bad until this current patch? Lance is a lot better in this patch. No, he's still not, like, amazing, but Lance is much better in this patch, for sure. Don't get it twisted. U Turbulence is his UDP. They take his save jump away, which is funny. They took his save jump. That's very, very funny. It leaves him closer, but he doesn't get a save jump anymore, right? They also made it more punishable. Minus 25 from minus 18. That was already very punishable. I don't know why. They gave it more whiff recovery as well. They nerfed the wall jump, and they made it so it's a counter hit, right? And they let him steal up. They let him steal the corner with his 5U, right? Lance is very solid in this patch. Yeah. He's not, like, amazing, crazy, or anything like that, but I would call Lance a good character now, where I definitely would not have said that before. I think Lance was a solid, like, after this patch, and until the Wilderness patch, Lance is, like, a bottom 5 contender, I think. Now he's much more of, like, just a solid character now. Yeah, so Lance, this is big, right? Again, this by itself is a very big nerf. This is a huge nerf. The SBA gauge gain does matter as well. This is a big nerf as well. They take away, like, they just completely take this move away from him, basically, right? He doesn't get a save jump on his UDP anymore. They nerf the wall cling, which is a very, very good thing about him, right? Yeah, he was already, like, he already was, after the Vayne patch where they take the U Fireball away and they make U Blade Impulse more counterplayable, he was already probably the worst of the 5, in my opinion. Like, if you had Nier as your number 1, Siegfried as number 2, which is basically really, you couldn't really have discussed that, like, it was kind of undisputed. And then you know, it would be like Seox Belial or Belial Seox, and Lance was definitely still there, but Lance was probably number 5 for sure, right? And they hit him pretty hard in this patch too, and that's kind of where bad thing, like, he gets hit really, really hard in this patch, definitely harder than some of them as well. Percy gets a bunch of buffs here. This is what basically this is what makes Percy what he is today, right? Percy's far H gets buffed, his dash H gets buffed, his M Fireball gets its startup reduced, right? U Fireball gets buffed, like Flame Carpets to make it so it's +9 all the time, no matter what. His M Platzen is his DP, gets a hitbox buff, right? If the first part hits and the rest of it whiffs, he doesn't get punished for it anymore. The DP, again, this gets buffed. This is great, this is huge. This buff is huge for stockless Percy. This is where they made it so that this launches without stocks. It didn't used to do that. This is a very big deal, because it means that Percy can always just do this, bonk, and then, like, stock up relatively safely down here, and then he can get his game plan started if he gets a single hit in neutral. Used to be you would have to either spend some fucking meter for this, or get a much, like, beefier hit to send you back with, like, you know, the gun or something like that, right? So yeah, this is a huge buff to Percy, right? Don't get it twisted. Hello, Tango. I'm doing well. How are you, man? They also sped up the overhead, and they made it an anti-air, like the fact that you can do, you know, all Percy's, like, crazy anti-air shit, where you can do stuff like this, right? That happens in this patch too. Percy's anti-air damage is incredibly high, right? Percy hits, like he basically, with stock up, he's fucking Vayne in these streets, right? Percy will absolutely, murder you off of an anti-air. Even just like that, he can get, like, close H into fucking SBA if he so desires, right? He can do some shit like, I'm bad at Percival, don't mind me. But he can do close H off of that. And then he can, like, do SSBA, and that by itself is going to be, like, however much damage. I'll do this just because I'm bad. But he can do it off L and M too, right? Like, even just do shit like this, right? Like, that's already hitting you for, like, 8.5k or something. That's a bad Percival anti-air combo. But again, this being, like, an extender for anti-air combos starts here. Ground bound sight increased, right? Extra mid-air hit stun, everything like that. Again, off the H1, it's even better. This lets him get mid-screen combos off of this where possible, right? They make the gun just better. 10 frame less recovery on it, which means, you know, this. So, again, this, right? Clean hits, hold up. Oh, yeah, it needs to stock to clean hit, right? Hold on. I got Percy to master, I promise, I'm just stupid. This right here, being plus 25, that's a new thing, right? So he can like relatively safely stock up. If he gets this, at the very least do this, if you have a really good neutral skip or if you're on the ball or something, right? So you can like spend the stock and then immediately get it back relatively safely, right? That's a new thing. He would have been minus 16 here in before this patch, right? Same thing for the H version as well, right? The H version gets made 10 frames more plus, right? The U version made it easier to get a clean hit, and they gave him his 2-2 U buffs, which let him combo off 2-2 U and stuff like that, where he can, like, you know, the lower his HP, or sorry, the higher his stocks are, the easier he can combo off of this. It recovers faster to the point that he can actually do shit like this. It's actually too quick, right? If he's at 9 stocks, he can straight up do like this into the gun, and it's like a raw combo, and it does a shit ton of damage, right? That's added in this patch too. Percy just gets buff after buff after buff after buff after buff after buff. And like it took us a little bit to realize it. I think it took Toro to kind of show people what this character was capable of. For some people, though, I think some people were definitely on this train a little bit earlier. But yeah, like Percy is kind of unchanged since this patch. Like however strong you think Percy is, it happened here, right? Percy becomes the top tier that he currently is here, basically, right? Ladiva gets a rework in this patch, which is, I still stand by the fact that it was a buff, but long story short, I've talked about this at length, but like, yeah, they make her command grabs better and her strikes worse. Headbutt launches, but all the command grabs do more damage, and they have more range, and like the M and H versions, actually the L1 gets its range slightly reduced, but it's still very big. They have more whiff recovery. This one gets its range reduced, but they do more damage, and the M and H versions get the corner carry. She gets her cancel here, this thing Ladiva can do, where every character's like core identity, by the way, was created in this patch, basically, right? This is the patch of the video game. This is almost like Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising Revelator 2, you know what I mean? But yeah, like, the thing Ladiva can do where she does this, that wasn't a thing. Like, that combo from the H version into the U grab, that happens here. That happens in this patch, right? Ladiva's headbutts being like a launching thing, right? Like this whole thing where Ladiva like does this and like routes into these safe jumps every combo, right? That happens here. That happens in this patch, right? Roll into SSBA happens here, right? Everything that is like kind of Ladiva's current identity exists in this patch. The way that headbutt works against projectiles happens here, right? Yeah, right. The lariats being slightly changed a little bit here. They're gonna buff them again in a different patch. But yeah, this also starts here. Lariats being a very big part of Ladiva's neutral game plan, right? Matera. Was this the first time her 720 damage was buffed? I don't believe it was buffed in... Oh, no. 720 gets added here. Yes. Her ability to 720 for her SSBA gets added here. Yeah. Right? If you 720 it, she gets a damage buff, and that happened in this patch too. Matera gets a bunch of buffs in this patch as well. Dash H better, Dash M better. Her U Fireball causes wall bounces, which is what lets her go like Fireball, Fireball, Fireball. Like doing combos like that. L, this gives her like her light arrow as a throw bait, which is actually kind of fucking funny, honestly. It's certainly, you know, interesting that she's got that, but L, the Great Fall, recovery reduced by 15 frames. This is the beginning of this is like, I think where at this point Matera can do those crazy butterfly combos, but it's like in very certain situations, and it's like a 1 frame link, you know what I mean? Obviously the most recent patch makes it a lot more realistic, but this is like more so far Matera is not very good before this patch. So like these buffs are a good thing, right? Like I know Matera buffs, but like Matera was quite bad before this, so like her getting buffed like this is a good thing. They also, believe it or not, right, U Butterfly. You know, U Butterfly got reduced from 300 to 240 frames. It used to last for 8 seconds. If you didn't know, this used to last this would last twice as long as it currently does, right? So U Butterfly also got nerfed. Now here's the one thing, though. Now here's the thing, though, right? Not your best work. I'm not saying the patch is perfect. I'm not saying the patch is perfect, right? I'm not saying the patch is perfect, but like, not your best work, right? I hope you got some compensation buffs. This mostly, right? This is mostly the big problem, right? Yeah, this not your best work, Side Games. Now again, though, keep in mind, at this time, Matera is still after this patch, a not very good character with one ridiculously insane move in U Butterfly. U Butterfly in this context is much more usable. Or sorry, much more reasonable, right? Right now, U Butterfly is basically a really strong move on Matera, but Matera is not a good character. So, like, it's fine, right? Like, no one is really complaining about U Butterfly at this time, right? It's more so, I don't even know that, like, I guess it's not fair to say not your best work. It's more so, this probably needed to get reverted in the Sandalphon patch, probably, right? That's probably more so a hit on the Sandalphon patch than on this patch, right? Because, yes, like, this basically gives Matera a very strong move in U Butterfly, and the rest of the character is still kind of ass, so it's like fine. But like when you make the rest of the character good, having a really good character who also has an insane move is when it starts to be kind of a problem, right? Loain. Now, you know, kind of my bet. basically everything that is the way that it is about Lowain mostly exists in this patch. It gets put in this patch. Lowain has not been changed meaningfully in a patch the entire time, right? So you could argue actually that this is maybe one of the biggest mistakes of this patch, because it took me a long time to get onto this knowledge for sure. I don't believe, let me double check real quick. I don't believe Lowain is in any of these other patches. Let me just double check. He's not in the Wilderness patch. I know that for sure. Yeah, it's mostly bug fixes anyway. Right? There's nothing too important in here, and I don't think he gets buffed in the Sandalphon patch either. Am I right or am I wrong? Is Lowain in here? Lowain is in here, and only universal adjustments. Yep. So yeah, you know, the patch that makes Lowain sort of the problem that he is, it's this one. So you know, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. And Lowain, you know, even at this point in the game, like, there's certainly still the power level the ceiling gets reduced a little bit more even still. So Lowain is probably not as good in this current iteration, like in 1.5 as he is now, because like a lot of top tiers get worse before today, right? But still, it is the way that it goes, right? Lowain being as silly as he is basically happens in this patch, right? Fairy. This was really funny at the time because it looked like they nerfed Fairy. Fairy was a very bad character. It looked like they nerfed her. They didn't. They actually buffed her. They gave her the heal side swap, which they have since reverted, which is very, very unfortunate. But yeah, they gave her the side swap here. They made her far M and H air blockable. They gave her a 6/6H as a combo tool and a side swapping tool. And yeah, like a lot of the Fairy stuff as it currently exists. Like the ball has 8 hits, which lets her do a lot of the cool "you're pissing me off" stuff, right? Like Fairy, as she currently existed before the Wilderness patch, was sort of created here as well, right? Overall, Fairy does get buffed in this patch. We saw this. I overreacted. I said, oh my god, what did they do? Whatever, right? But Fairy gets buffed in a pretty nice way in this patch, right? Zeta gets nerfed decently hard here. I mean, the fuzzy nerf, she could do that, right? So that's a little worse for her. And U skills universally get nerfed in this patch, but most importantly, Zeta's U skills get nerfed doubly so. So damage from U skills universally has gone down a lot in this patch because we've put scaling on U skill starters and we've taken 125 meter combos away. So doubly so, U skills have already had their damage nerfed. Zeta gets a triplicate on this, where her U skills in particular also get lowered damage by 500. It's a really big deal, right? Same thing on this as well, right? Same thing on this as well. And Zeta's U skills were very, very crazy, right? But yeah, like I mean, in hindsight, she was still really good after this, so I guess it made sense. But yeah, Zeta's U skills got hit, and they also got made a lot less safe in this patch too, right? So Zeta is kind of the primary target of this sort of U skill patch, right? The U skill part of this patch, it's mostly Zeta. Hey, it's Vasaraga who gets buffed a lot. Again, second Jenga block placed in here, right? Voss's close H gets made faster, it gets more damage, he gets his crumple, his like insane maxed out damage starts in this patch, like Voss being able to TOD himself happens here, right? Again, charge far H being buffed, all of his charge heavies get buffed, his light fireball causes a juggle state on grounded hits, so it can be used as a combo tool, or it knocks up as well, so it's good as, it knocks you back, he gets the Soul Forge after, I believe increase the frame advantage on the charge Battalions of Fear. This wall bounce they gave Vasaraga on the second hit of H is also where like his insane damage comes from. If you look at like Vasaraga combos, it's always some shit like, you know, this into that, into the wall bounce, into an extension off of that, right? That didn't exist before, that happened in this patch. So again, Vasaraga's damage goes through the fucking roof in this patch. They also nerf Battalions of Fear. The trend of Vasaraga getting gigantic buffs and then Battalions of Fear getting nerfed continues. It's no longer guard point. It actually takes 50% damage now. And also, they made it so if you blocked both hits of this, right, it used to be that if you blocked both hits of this, right, Voss would get pushed back way far and he'd be -6, but only characters with very good 6-framers could punish him. Now everyone can, right? Spoiler, recently in the Wellness patch, or in the Galleon patch, they buffed him tremendously. They made it so even if the first part whiffs, he's still right up close and personal like this, right? That wasn't the case post-Versuja patch. They let him grab foes and hit stun with his Scythe. Yeah. And they made his light command grab much bigger. It says expanded, it's like doubled, right? So Vasaraga has like a grappler, like his, you know, grappling being like one of his primary game plans off of the stance, where he can just like walk and grab you out of it, also starts here. At this point, Vasaraga is a pretty solid character. Some people were saying he was broken here. I disagree. But Vasaraga was a pretty strong character at this point, and he is arguably, maybe, again, the biggest winner of this patch, right? There's a lot of big winners in this patch, but Voss is up there, right? Voss gets a... Voss also his stance gets buffed as well, right? Voss gets a lot of buffs in this patch. Narmaya gets buffed in this patch as well. Mostly Flip, as it currently exists because of this patch. So if you hate Flip, I'm sorry, blame this patch. And also Setsuna gets mostly buffed. Consistent wall bounces on Setsuna and consistent hit effects and stuff like that. But H Setsuna has minus on block, right? I can't go through everyone in great detail. We're gonna be here forever, right? Sora is also not that huge of a story here, but this is where he gets the 5-frame roundhouse kick, which is very, very funny. And they also make it much easier for him to build up his Muscle Fury badges. He gets twice as many now. He gets 1 if he tanks and 1 if he flexes on you. And also the defense bonus in his 5U has been increased, right? And his install gets faster, right? So Sora's, again, just big buffs this patch. At this point, I think Sora's is very, very strong, right? That's also where U-Transient got worse. True. They did, like, kill U-Transient here. It sucks. They gave it back to her. They gave her, like, maybe a different version, but something very good later. But yeah, Sora's at this point, I would say, like, this patch buffs Sora's quite a lot, right? Sora's is quite good after this patch, for my money. Zoe gets a lot of changes, but mostly they kind of fuck up how her U-Thunder works, and then make H-Thunder a combo tool, give her the Dust Loop combos, and then say, all right, Zoe's, we've done enough, and they never touch her for the rest of the game's lifespan. Cagliostro gets some buffs and some nerfs. Overall, I think this is a Cagliostro buff patch. M Spear becomes -1 on block instead of -4 on block, which not only makes it a much better pressure tool, but the fact that the recovery got changed like that means that she gets combos off this that she didn't get before. Her DP gets nerfed significantly. And yeah, her damage scaling on the second tornado apparently, or teleport, is better in this one. Her traps get buffed, her 6/6H gets buffed. Everything but her DP gets buffed in this patch, essentially. Right? Cag gets buffed in this patch, and she's very good now, and she kind of was before too. I remember this was kind of funny that she was pretty strong before, and then she's still very good. But at least her DP shenanigans get her DP gets significantly worse, which was a pretty tricky move, right? UL gets reworked in this patch. I think it's a bit of a... I know the ULs, a lot of them like pre-rework UL better. This is where they give her the 50-50, like UL having the high-low, if you know what that is. That happens in this patch. They also make it so her parry doesn't auto-parry anymore. It used to auto-parry. Now you have to manually parry it, but it works on projectiles, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the UL gets her 50-50 in this patch. To me, I consider this to be a good patch for UL, because I think she literally didn't do anything before, and now she has like a win condition, I guess. Namely, what changed, by the way, is that her overhead went from 16 to 14 frames, so like pretty decisively unreactable, and also got made -6 instead of plus, but it got made an overhead, right? And it comboed on counter hit, is the idea. Uno got a bunch of buffs in this patch. His dive kicks are better, his zoning is better, his spins are better, his install is better. Uno was already very strong, and this patch makes him very, very strong. Eustace also gets a bunch of good buffs, namely that his light fireball and medium fireball. Identity-wise, I think the stance change is lame. I didn't know what identity UL had before the patch, personally, but... yeah, Eustace's fireballs knocking down on regular hits is really good for his zoning, right? This makes Eustace's zoning significantly more threatening and more rewarding for him, right? Yeah, he gets better 2 HH combos and far HH combos and stuff like that. The charge versions of his fireballs are like basically made more useful for all intents and purposes, right? Let's see. Yeah, U grenades doesn't disappear on block anymore, which is a very, very big buff, right? It was made in overhead before. It was a low crushing grab bait that's plus on block. Yeah, but like the problem with it being a grab bait is UL's throw was 20 frames, right? I don't know. I don't think UL did anything before this. I'm still very much of the opinion that I think UL literally didn't do anything before she got changed there. You could argue she could have been made better, but it was a grab bait on a character with a reactable grab, right? I don't know. If you just like saw her dash at you, you just fuzzy mashed it and she died, right? So I think it's a low crushing grab bait that's plus on block. It doesn't do anything. You just blocked, you just down backed against stance UL and she lost, all right? Yeah, so Eustace got some good buffs in this patch too. Again, U grenade not going away on block is very nice as well. Makes it a much more oppressive sort of Oki tool. Seox, right? The next of our royal guards. We talked about Lancelot losing 1,000 HP. Seox loses 2,000 HP. Huge. Gigantic. One of the biggest nerfs in the game's history. His dash got made faster, which is very funny. But yeah, his close H got the same SBA gauge reduction that Lance did. His 6H was very bad, so it got a little buff, right? In general, his like light and medium Rekka options also got made a little bit better, right? But the 2,000 health is a very, very big deal. And also, his U Gate of Demons. Recovery when landing after whiffing has been increased. 9 frames on the grounded version, and 13 on the aerial version, right? Isn't everything else for Seox buffs? No, there's a very, very important nerf here, and I want to explain that. I've talked about this a couple of times before. Seox had, again, a throw bait that had no counterplay. Seox is also nerfed by the U-skill starters, by the way, because he had a U-skill throw bait that was a combo starter that had literally no counterplay, right? So them doing less damage on hit is good, but also, Seox used to do this, right? You see how Seox is... I'm +5 right there. I spot dodged kind of late. I was +5. That's cool. I got a punish. I got a close cell. I can kill Seox here. They added 13 frames of recovery on whiff to this. Do you know what that means? That means that not only was Seox here not -5, he was actually 13 frames more plus, which means that actually he was +8 there. So I reaction spot dodged Seox's throw bait, right? And actually he got a close H counter hit on me for doing that. Okay, well, I'll just block it then. I'll just block it. Oh, it's plus on block. Okay. Cool. So it's okay. I'll like delay tech with 2H, I guess, which you could do, right? You could do. But then he had a lot of ways to kill you for doing that too, right? But yeah, this was a throw bait with very, very minimal, if any, counterplay at all. That was also a combo starter. Right, it was a combo starter, and it did a shit ton of damage. It led to 125 meter combos for Seox. So not only do the U-skill nerfs really hurt Seox on this, this becomes a move with counterplay. Do you know what this is today? A really good throw bait. Right? This move today is a very strong throw bait on Seox. I simply DP, I guess, yeah. But God forbid I DP when I see a blue flash and he does this. This is also a 125 meter combo starter on Seox. Right? So yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. So this is a huge nerf. Don't get it twisted, because this move went from being just basically a fuck you can't do anything about it move, to a real move with counterplay, and he lost 2,000 health, right? Seox gets away later than Lance, for sure, but this makes Seox, to this day, is a pretty reasonable character. Strong, but like pretty reasonable, right? Pretty reasonable but strong character these days. And it's because of these two sort of changes here, right? Vera gets changed in a lot of ways. They try to make her install. Her install gets way better in this patch, but they kind of like nerf a lot of things about base Vera, and also they nerf her DP in this patch. Eula Luminaria is no longer an anti-zoning tool. It's a crumple tool. This is basically designed to basically make it a worse move outside of install, but like get her into install more easily. Like they kind of... Vera's identity currently of being a character that is not very good outside of install, but very good in install, again, happens here. They do a bunch of install buffs, and they do a bunch of things to base Vera that make her not as good, but they make her better in install, right? And make it so that she gets into install in different ways. It happens here, right? So Vera becoming this fully reliant on the install character happens in this patch. Overall, I would say this probably is a buff patch for Vera. Her close H gets made 8 frames as well, which is very nice. It's a big breakpoint, right? An 8 frame close H is much better than a 9 frame close H, and her close H was already very good, right? But yeah, Vera gets made the install reliance kind of character, like super install reliance character that she is today, right? Bubs gets he gets his dive kick separated from his Chaos Caliber cooldown. He uses his DP cooldown now, so he can do like combos off his dive kick and stuff, which is very good for him, certainly, right? And also they make his grab bigger. There's a bunch of other changes as well. He pulls you in further from Karma, but I'm trying to go over the greatest hits here, just because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Yeah, Seox got some buffs for sure. The Wolf's Howl buffs are very nice. So yeah, Bubs, again, mostly a little bit buffed in this patch, right? More combo routes and stuff like that. Belial. So, we saw Seox got nerfed pretty hard, right? Pretty hard. Lance got nerfed very hard. You know, we're gonna look at Siegfried. Like, spoiler, Siegfried gets nerfed pretty hard in this patch as well. He's still good, but like he gets like one of the stupidest things, at least about him, taken away. Surely, Belial will be the same, yes? Well, this is maybe the first instance, actually, of... Belial does get nerfed in this patch, but he gets just a lot of compensation buffs This is the first one that I can think of where it's like, yeah, like, this character who should have gotten nerfed and just nerfed gets nerfed, but also gets a bunch of shit in exchange, and at the end, you're like, well, is he even any worse? Probably, but, like, is he still, yeah, huh, right? What happens with Belial in this patch? His M Fireball gets buffed. It's a combo start. It's a combo tool now. It gives him some ways to conserve his Fireball cooldown, right? It does more damage, etc., etc. His U Fireball becomes the U Fireball, you know, today, where you can side swap, and it's plus a billion on block, and it's plus a billion on hit, and all of this, right? So that you buff his U Fireball to hell and back. H Notoria, they gave him sort of the consistency buff they did for a lot of DPs, where if the first hit hits and the second hit whiffs, there's still this hard knockdown until you're done, so you don't kill you, right? Yeah, Belial had one Evo a couple weeks before this, by the way. A couple weeks before this, Belial won Evo. His M Asmodeus, which is the sort of big claw, it gets made better as like a mid-air tool. I think the thing where you can do like U Asmodeus or U Fireball into like M Asmodeus into move into M Asmodeus happens here as well. So a lot of really nice, right? His U Fireball just becomes one of the best U skills in the video game, and his M Fireball also gets made much better, right? He gets some consistency buffs on his DP, and he gets like a nice sort of situational combo tool in this, but he did have a guard crush setup that you had to brave counter out of or get hit. Kind of similar to what Siegfried did, right? Belial did have something that was like just, it was one of the things that made him a truly absurd character and not just like a good character, right? But he did have this thing basically where, I forget the setup for this again, but you know, it was something like, you know, he would just launch your ass, right, into like 1, 2, 3, into, you know, meaty U Asmodeus U on landing, and he was like, if he meated with it, it was plus like 5 or 6, so he could get a combo off the guard crush, so you had to either brave counter or DP him on landing, or you know, you would die. So it was a very, very sort of belligerent and unfair setup that he had, that they did take away from him in this, right? They did also make it so he's more plus after he lands it, for some reason. They also made his M command grab faster, and they made his U command grab faster as well by 10 frames, right? So, like, this is a big nerf, but literally the entire rest of this is, like, relatively meaningful compensation buffs, right? As well, Belial was one of the only characters in the game, actually, who wasn't really that big on U skills. It's one of the reasons that, like, his U skills are kind of getting, like, besides this guard crush setup, like, as a combo tool, he didn't use his U skills that much. It was kind of the running joke with Belial, is he was just still playing vanilla Rising, but with 6XLs, and he had a really good 6XL, right? So, like, the U skill changes, they nerf every other top tier. They nerf Seox, they nerf Lancelot, they nerf Siegfried, they nerf Nier, they nerf Jita, they nerf every other good character. Belial didn't really care, right? So in a weird way, relative to the cast, it kind of bumps him up in power. He didn't have fuzzies, like, none of the system changes are bad for him, except for the 6XL close M universalization, because Belial always got 6XL close M, right? His close M is 6 frames. So he always got that. So, like, that did make that less special. All of the other system changes for him basically nerf all the top tiers around him, right? So Belial ends up, I don't know, about as good as he was, maybe a little worse after this patch. Belial is probably the best character in the game after this patch. This is like the big miss, I would say. This is probably the big miss in this patch, is that Belial gets essentially side graded if you're being generous. He gets side graded in this patch, despite being arguably the third best character in the game at the time, right? It's probably with Seox, but you could make an argument that Belial was number 3. You could make an argument it was Nier 1, Siegfried 2, Belial 3, right? And where everyone else around him, even characters worse than him, like way worse than him, like Jita or something, get nerfed quite a lot. Jita was still very good, but she was not nearly as good as Belial, right? He gets maybe side graded, maybe buffed, depending on what you're thinking about. Abel gets made a real character in this patch. Abel is no longer a joke character after this patch. Basically, his pact follow-ups inherit. They inherit his. Like they get like ground bounces and wall bounces and stuff like that if he does them off EXs. So like the Abel combo where he does just like H Rekka into Stomp into H Rekka into Stomp, the stuff they took away from him recently. That happens here, right? Abel being this character who actually gets significantly high reward, good damage, great damage, good corner carry, stuff like that, if he spends his health. So he becomes this actual like risk-reward trade-off character, and not just like a joke character who spent his health to do less damage than your average character. That happens in this match, right? He was really shit before this, and he's actually a character now. He maybe is the biggest winner of this patch because he's not like the obvious bottom one anymore. It's like Vayne now or something. But yeah, Abel. Whoa. Okay, that didn't happen. And now it's gone. Yeah, Anila, weirdly, is about the same in this patch. Her 2-2U gets made a throw bait. I think there's a translation error somewhere. Yeah. Her 2-2U like gets made a throw bait, which is nice. They gave her a throw bait, but they also kind of nerfed the U sheep, which is a little interesting. Where like a compensation buff on Anila or a compensation nerf on Anila feels a little bit strange, right? But you know, they also made they made it so her H sheep converts off her buttons much more consistently. Anila gets, oh no, this is H Fireball. Never mind, this is the H Fireball. Flocks of the Future was in the Vayne patch. My bad. But yeah, you know, Anila is about, you know, she's a little better after this patch, but it's just weird that she got any kind of compensation nerfs at all, I suppose. Sieg, H Fireball. Siegfried H Fireball loses 35 active frames. Now you might look at that and be like, what the fuck? You're telling me this move had over double the amount of active frames it currently does back in the day? Yeah. Remember when I hesitated a little bit when we were talking about Nier's 214U earlier, where she throws death out at you, the U ominous turn? And I was like, this was probably the best neutral skip in the game. The reason that I hesitated is because this move was a thing. See how that like goes away pretty quickly? This move was very slow and it lasted forever. So for no meter, Siegfried would just do this, and this slow, incredibly active, unrollable, very difficult to jump over, possible, but I mean, what, you gotta jump at Siegfried also? I just wanna point out that you want to jump at Siegfried, right? You wanna jump at Siegfried, who, I mean, again, if you right, you're telling me you want to jump at Siegfried? That's who you want. You want to jump at Siegfried. That's what we're getting at? Is you want to jump at that guy? What's the combo of this again? It's like 2M into Orchid or something, right? Is that it? 2M into something like that. Oh, the nerfs in 2.0. I should probably make that a lot harder to do, right? I forget what his combo is off this, but Siegfried does a shit ton of anti-air damage by and large, right? Is what I'm trying to get at here. There you go. With the nerfs, I think you have to be a little bit closer now. But don't jump at Siegfried, right? 236M is old, 236H but worse. Yeah, imagine this, but it had like way less recovery. You could move way quicker, and it lasted longer, and it was plus on block, and right? So this H Fireball used to be an insane fucking move. It was just win neutral the button, right? This was, even with like Nier being as insane as she was and stuff like that, this was still arguably like one of the best moves in the game, right? All of the best moves in the game were Nier moves, but like this was up there because it just was an EX move on like an 8-second cooldown that just won you neutral by default and got Siegfried in your face, and Siegfried did ridiculous amounts of damage, right? So just taking this away was a very big deal. Making it faster, believe it or not, is also a nerf, right? It means that, well, it does mean that it functions as an EX Fireball still, but it does mean that he can't follow behind it as easily. It gets to the opponent way quicker. These two combined kind of kill its use, and also makes it worse as a pressure option in the corner as well. Because it was so slow before, C got a pressure option he could do, where basically, you know, if he was Granblue zoning you, he could do something like this, right? Or he could do something like this, right? And to beat this, you have to spot dodge right away. Because this was so slow, if you spot dodge right away, the Fireball would kill you. Nowadays, if I set Seox to evade on block, both of them lose because of the speed up to the Fireball, right? So if I do, oh, that's a true block string, sorry, it would be like this one, right? Right? So now both of these are going to lose, right? Because the Fireball is so much quicker, immediate spot dodge just beats basically all the cancels that Siegfried has. I think it even will beat something like this, right? Yeah, right. So that it also was a nerf to his pressure, this travel speed increase. They did make it more plus. Basically, they took this from a neutral tool to a pressure tool, is what they wanted it to be, right? But yeah, this move was actually the devil, and it became just a good EX Fireball after this, right? That's kind of the big thing that they changed in this patch. Yeah, I believe that's the main thing, right? Otherwise, there's a bunch of changes that didn't matter that much. They tried to make his install better. It kind of wasn't, right? They increased the recovery on his SBA, which is very nice because that move was, you know, kind of stupid. So at least he would get Giga punished, minus 30 on block if you blocked it, right? Oh, they did nerf his dragon. They nerfed Dragon Blood in this too, right? Throws, Raging Strikes, Raging Chains, and Brave counters no longer receive a damage buff while active. This did used to buff all of those. It doesn't anymore, right? So they nerfed Dragon Blood, which isn't that big of a deal, but it's, you know, it matters. And they also mostly took away his H Fireball, right? A lot of this other stuff is like, I mean, his MDP or M Fireball got made a little bit better, but again, it's not, it also, you know, it got made shorter, right? These are not like huge compensation buffs, though they did make his 668 a lot better, right? Nerfed and buffed install. They took away the damage buff from all of this, but yeah. They did also make it so it didn't eat his health if he was low enough HP, but like his install still sucks, right? Mostly Siegfried, all these changes are kind of whatever. Some of them kind of okay, some of them kind of nerfs. The big thing is the Fireball, right? The H Fireball got nerfed a lot. Grim got made a lot easier, I think, mechanically. Is that this patch? Was there something about the Seal Dashes? Yeah, the Gale Dashes are easier to buffer, right? You can actually buffer the Gale Dashes and stuff like that. He got made easier to use mechanically. They increased the cooldown on his H-Wind crest, just the Seal place, right? Went to a 12-second or 10-second cooldown, which is good, right? That thing having an 8-second cooldown, being like the same as all other EX skills, is certainly a little funny, right? Did anything else like super meaningful happen here? This U Fireball got buffed, right? Which is definitely, that's a big deal. Grim was not widely considered to be like an insane character at this point, but he was still considered pretty strong, right? But yeah, mostly I think what they did is just like this patch opened the floodgates for the Grims to like lab all the bullshit, because they made the Gale Dashes more consistent, like it was less funky, and also was easier executionally to do, right? Oh no, they gave him this too, right? Seal Dash not launching happened here as well. Yeah. So Grim gets buffed a lot in this patch. Made easier to play, better combo routes, better U Fireball, stuff like that, right? So yeah, like Grim, the labs, like the floodgates open for the Grims to now be able to lab this guy more consistently and get all the crazy shit, right? Nier. I've talked about this at length, so actually, believe it or not, I'm not going to go over Nier too much. But basically, Nier got turned from the best character in the game, undisputed, to probably bottom 1 after this patch. There was some amount of coping after this happened, but like, she's ass. She's been ass since then, and she still is ass to this day, right? Maybe like bottom 2, arguably now. So they reworked how her stocks work entirely, right? Where they made it like Zato. Right? It didn't used to be that every time that Nier unsummoned Death or something, it would go on cooldown. It would used to be that, like, you know, Nier would just use her stocks, and she would unsummon Death, and she would just resummon him whenever she wanted to, right? And it would only be once she fully ran out of those stocks that it would go on cooldown, right? And it would go on cooldown for, like, a while, for sure, right? But, like, most of the time, Nier could just, because her skills are also less expensive, she could just kill you before she ran out of stocks. It was only really a thing where Nier would run out of stocks in a round against, like, the 18,000 health characters, right? But yeah, so this rework where, like, now anytime Death gets hit, or Nier gets hit, or she gets throw-teched, or she unsummons Death, or anything like that, it goes on cooldown. That's a new thing. New to the Versuja patch, right? That happened here. So this rework is a rework, but a huge nerf, right? Death. If Death is hit, you lose a stock, and he unsummons, right? And she goes on cooldown, right? This is also where, like, throw-teching would kill Death, right? Brave countering would kill Death. Calling Nier a mean name would kill Death, right? They nerfed all of her buttons, and even some of them that, to my understanding, even some that aren't mentioned here. Her box got a little bit bigger, right? Like her amazing 4M got made a lot worse. Her amazing 2M got made a lot worse, even with and without Death, right? Her 2U got made with a lot worse. I think, again, with and without Death. I think this is like, actually, this wasn't fully honest here, right? She can't Raging Strike anymore when Death is summoned or when he's on cooldown. They just took a universal mechanic away from her. This is because Nier used to have an unblockable Raging Strike setup where she would Raging Strike you, or unBCable as well. She would Raging Strike you. You couldn't block, you had to spot dodge it. If you spot dodge it, you died. You had to DP it, actually. That's what you have to do. If you spot dodged it, Death was queued to kill you. If you didn't spot dodge it and you got guard crushed by it, if you tried to Brave counter, they would Misfortune, and then Death would eat your Brave counter, and then Nier would punish you for it. So it was like, and this just worked. She could set this up off any hit. You know, she could do this anywhere, right? So they wanted to get rid of that Raging Strike setup. So what they did is they made it so that she couldn't Raging Strike at all if Death was out. A little heavy-handed, for reasons we'll also see, right? But yeah, Nier cannot Raging Strike if Death is summoned or on cooldown. Only when Death is available to summon, right? But not summoned. So this one's a little bit strange. Let me just explain this real quick visually, right? So Nier has 3 different states that she can be in, right? Nier is down here. Nier can either have Death out, right? She can be Deathless Nier, where Death is recovering, or this state right here, where Death is available to summon, but she's not out. This is where I can Raging Strike, right? If Death is out, I'm hitting Raging Strike, nothing's happening. If I'm Deathless, I'm hitting Raging Strike, nothing's happening, right? I get what you're saying. Wow, you look so handsome today, too. Are you doing this on purpose? I'm sorry, it just happens every day, I fear, Edward, but thank you very much. So yeah, so this is a gigantic nerf, right? This is maybe the biggest nerf any character's ever gotten. If it isn't, it's because this is maybe the biggest nerf any character's ever gotten. If it isn't, it's because this is maybe the biggest nerf any character's ever gotten. If it isn't, it's because this is maybe the biggest nerf any character's ever gotten. All of Nier's skills, right, have their cost increased by 1. Light and medium skills cost 1 stock. H and U skills cost 2 stocks. Buffering a skill makes it N plus 1. So, right now, if I go light into light, see the first one was 1, the second one was 2. That didn't used to be the case before. These ones were free. The light skills were free. And the H and U skills cost 1, right? So do you see why Nier never ran out of stocks? Unless she was fighting like Ladiva or Vasaraga, right? Even then, she might not. So, now, these use 1. If you buffer them into each other, they use 2. These use 2. And if you buffer them into each other, the H and U, like if I do like H into H, that's 5 stocks total, right? And buffered skills got an 80% damage penalty on top of just regular combo scaling. And this is like a bit of a quality of life thing on the input buffering, right? But yeah, so this is huge. Alongside this, where it's like her running out of whoa.
I better not
excuse me,
you
sir?
like this tomorrow too.
I might be handsome tomorrow too. I'm sorry. I might just be. But thank you very much for the 10. But I might be handsome like this tomorrow too, man. That's how it goes. But yeah, so this is also just huge because it means that not only is this rework make it so that she basically fucking Zato, but also her any gauge goes down incredibly quickly, right? Yeah, I don't know, man. Right? Oh, and also the U skills got made starters, right? But Death is no longer invincible during recovery. So this thing you can do, like, you know, U skill into another special. You couldn't do this before on Nier, right? Problem being, of course, that now Nier's U skills have the unique underprivilege, displeasure of being suicide. Because now if Nier ever uses her U skill, you can brave counter Death, and she just spent 50 meter, 32.5 meter, to become bottom 1 for a certain amount of time, right? Yeah. So her U skills, despite still being very strong on paper, just lose to brave counter now. So you know the strongest system mechanic in the entire game that every character gets 3 of, maybe 4 of every single round. It just all of Nier's U skills insta lose to brave counter now as well. So I guess if this isn't the biggest nerf in the game, and this isn't the biggest nerf in the game, and this isn't the biggest nerf in the game, I don't know if this one would be, honestly, because this one is mostly only bad because of this. This probably is the biggest nerf that she got, right? This rework is horrifying. This is like this rework is just actually taking her out back and shooting her in the head, right? Oh, and I mean, and by the way, also, her L&M actually got made, they got made combo starters, but they weren't, they're not DPs anymore. They took her meterless DP away. H Misfortune just isn't a DP anymore. They made it a combo starter again, right? She can do that, right? She can, like, go, H Misfortune into this or something again, right? But it's just a special move now. It's really, right? It's an air blockable, right? It's an air blockable special, but she can do that now, right? So, like, that it's not really quite as threatening when it's just not a DP anymore. Nier, I believe, is still the only character in the history of the video game that had a meterless DP on release and just doesn't anymore, right? So that's a big deal. They took her meterless DP away. They buffed her UDP a little bit, actually. It beats unblockables now as well, which is funny because they took away the main unblockable that ever beat it in a couple patches ago. They also, yeah, they nerfed ominous turns, make it easier. You can, like, hit death after they whiff past you. Oh my Jesus Christ, I forgot about this, man. Yeah, the light one is more minus on block. Again, the claw death reverse is like the pull, the 2-2. It's this move. They also made this easier to hit death if it whiffed while she was near you. Oh yeah! And they, okay, yeah, Pain. This is her JU. Her J used to be an overhead. If you didn't know, this move, right? I guess it was with death already With Death unsummoned? How did you actually get this shit? How do you, like, with Death out? You have to hold it? Oh, you hold it, right? Yeah, this thing. This used to be an overhead. It's not anymore, right? Oh, it's just like if Death has to be, like, queued to do something, and then it'll be... Yeah, that button right there used to be an overhead. It's not anymore. What this means is that Nier had the best 50-50 in the game. She had a looping 50-50 that she got off of any hit, which was a high-low, which Death was holding you in place with a slashy, and Nier could jump in and do a JU or do a 2L, and the Niers also labbed this out to find a way to make it so it was unfuzzyable, so you were just guessing. When you got hit by this, you took like 8,000 damage, and it looped back into itself. Dude, they really took everything from her, and most of this is justified. It's crazy, right? Yeah, and it worked in the mid-screen, and it looped into itself, and it worked off any hit. She could, like, set up into it off any hit that she got, basically. Yeah, she had a looping 50-50 that was entirely riskless, that you couldn't fuzzy, that had no counterplay besides guessing right, that could also go into an unfuckwithable Raging Strike setup if you just, like, decided to just, you know, be a little too patient with it, right? Yeah, I don't know, man. They took her 50-50 away in this patch too. They buffed her install, or they reworked her install, right? But yeah, Nier, again, I always say, that 2,000 health they took off Seox, that is the single biggest nerf that any character has ever gotten. If we exclude, like, the 10 nerfs that Nier got in this patch, right? Like, this is a gigantic nerf. They took her meterless DP away. They made all of her U skills ass. They made a bunch of her moves worse. They made all of her best normals significantly worse. They reworked her in a way that just killed the character. This is crazy, right? I understand why it happened, because, again, Nier was just so unbelievably broken on release. She's been nerfed in every single one of these patches, and it just didn't matter. And they're like, you know what, fuck it. They kept nerfing her, and she was still top 1 forever, and they were like, fine. And they just actually put like 3 slugs in her head, kicked her dead body, flipped it over, put 3 slugs in her face, and then kicked it again, and then threw her in the river, and then lit the whole river on fire. And then when all the water evaporated, they nuked the riverbed. And then when the fallout settled, they came back, they saw that some of her bones were still remaining, and they threw those bones in that, like, garbage compactor that you see eating all the metal shit in those TikTok videos, and then they blew that entire machine up. And then they moved on to other characters in the patch. Maybe this is hyperbole? I don't know, man. A character going from undisputed top 1 to somewhat disputed bottom 1. This character got murdered. They removed her from the video game. The goal of this was to remove her from the video game, and boy, howdy, did they ever, right? Lucy got made a monster in this patch. Basically, by Blade level 5, got buffed significantly. It made it so Blade level 5 Lucilius got the Iscariot's ground bounce, which doesn't have that, if you know what that is, where he gets, you know, the ground bounce in the mid-screen off Iscariot like this. That didn't happen before the Versuja patch. Lucy Wu, they made him a character. He was a character. He was a character before. He was not super great, but he was like a solid, like, mid-tier character. Was at least my impression of him beforehand. But yeah, like this, right? Like where he got an extension off that in the mid-screen at BL5, that wasn't a thing before, right? Where he could do whatever bullshit it is he's doing on Blade level 5. They also, in general, they buffed the damage increase. They also made it apply to his supers. They turned Blade level 5 Lucilius into a god, right? They gave him a bunch of other buffs too, like his JU was a combo starter, right? His 2M was better for converting combos. His 668 got made better. His fireballs, I think, got buffed as well, right? Phosphorus got buffed and got made a better combo starter. His DP got buffed so he could use it all the time, right? He also got 1 blade level off Iscariot, the thing where he gets a blade level for hitting Iscariot. Didn't exist before, right? So if I turn my blade level down a bit, right? Like this thing, where he goes bonk, bonk, and this gives him a full blade level when he lands Iscariot, also got added in this patch, right? At this time as well, Lucy gets his full blade level whether he hits you or the move whiffs, right? This turns Lucy into kind of an insanely good character, right? He gets nerfed pretty soon after, actually, but Lucy gets made very strong in this patch. I believe 2B here gets like some buffs and some nerfs, right? They give her the sliding normals in this patch. They also make it so that yeah, they buff a bunch of her specials, but I think, yeah, they also make a lot of her use skills use more of her skill gauge, and they also make her consume skill gauge when she double jumps and when she air stalls, right? So, like, overall, I think this is viewed as you know, I think I've heard some people say this is a nerf. It's certainly, there are nerfs in here, but also like her little sliding normal dash bullshit happens in this patch, right? Vayne gets some good stuff, right? Vayne gets a little bit of, he gets mid-screen follow-ups off arm destruction here. They're not great yet. They get buffed again later, right? But he gets better mid-screen in this patch, right? His 6-6H gets made safe on block, which is very nice. It becomes a much more useful tool for him, right? Wild Beat gets buffed a little bit, right? His slams get buffed a little bit, make him easier to combo off of on counter hit and stuff like that. They buff his shield a little bit, right? Vayne is still not very good after this patch, but they kind of like, they buff him a little bit. They buff him a little bit, and then obviously he gets his real buffs later. Beatrix mostly is the same, because basically her emergency patch fixes were going to be her Versucha patch fixes, right? So she's the same here, and that's kind of it, right? So, by and large, what did this patch do? Besides Belial, you missed Lucy. Yeah, it's true. You came back right after I was done with Lucy, almost. Besides Belial, what did this patch do? This patch killed, like, the supremely good top tiers of the game. Even Belial, he is worse after that patch. That guard crush loop was very, very funny, right? But it killed the supreme god top tiers of the game. It buffed a lot of characters, right? Like, you know, not Anil actually, but, you know, like Avatar Belial we were talking about, like, Vasra got a lot better, Matera got better, Fairy got better, right? A lot of characters that were just, like, truly ass got made, like, more real. You know, Ladiva got a rework that I think helped her out a lot. So it brought the floor of the game really high up compared to where it was before. It took the ceiling of the game. Belial being the best character in the game after this patch is, like, a godsend, right? Because Belial was, like, he was, like, 2 steps below Nier. And then his nerfed version was top 1 in this patch, right? Like, Nier was obviously better than Siegfried, who was obviously better than Seox or Belial, whoever you had at number 3, right? And then Belial himself got made worse in this patch, a little bit worse, and that character was now top 1, maybe, right? It was him or Lucy or Catalina or something like that, right? But probably him. I'll put my money on him before he gets nerfed later. So, the ceiling of the game drops, like, almost a tier entirely, right? And the floor of the game, besides, like, Vayne or something, also, like, raises up a floor, right? This does, the balance of the game afterwards feels so much better. Even, like, Vayne, like, his 6XL close M, you didn't get that before, right? Was the patch that buffed Belial right after he won Evo? It did nerf Belial, but only very slightly, right? Which is certainly very silly. That is, like, I would consider that the big miss in the Versucha patch for sure. But, like, with 33 character changes and, like, 7 big system changes, the fact that all the system changes were great and, like, you know, by and large, like, 30 of the character changes were really good, right? This patch is amazing, right? This patch is just awesome. The game has, like, really, Rising is 2 games. Rising is before the Versucha patch and after the Versucha patch, right? Like, I mean, just really quickly, I know we would talk about this for like an hour, so I do want to, you know, wrap up and get through the other ones, right? But, like, buffed to relevance, nerfed to, like, reasonability, buffed to relevance too far, but buffed to relevance, right? Kind of buffed, right? Nerfed to reasonability, maybe even a little too far, but, you know, nerfed to reasonability, right? Buffed to relevance, maybe a little too far, but again, this character wasn't a real thing, right? Buffed to relevance somewhat. Buffed to relevance, buffed to relevance, buffed to relevance, nerfed to reasonability, buffed to relevance, buffed a little bit past relevance, right? Buffs to relevance, kind of the same. About the same, but, like, kind of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You got a little bit better, right? In my opinion, given a character identity, right? Buffed to, like, strong relevance, buffs to relevance, nerfed to reasonability, given an identity, and I think also overall buffed. I remember I talked to Charger after this, and he thought it was a pretty big buff for the character. I think, like, buffed to somewhat relevance, right? Buffed the mistake, buffed to relevance, about the same, nerfed to reasonability, right? Buffs to relevance, and then turns out that the Grims labbed out, and turns out actually they went a little too far, but oh well. Nerfed, shot in the head as he should be, right? Buffed to a little too far, but to relevance, right? Nerfed to more reasonability, maybe, or like maybe, you know, somewhere it's kind of in the middle, right? Since I thought 2B was always pretty good, but, like, you know, nerfed again a little bit, probably overall to a more like a more counterplay existent character, right? Certainly, like, the sliding dash moves is really good, but again, her skill gauge becoming such a more precious resource for her made her much easier to fight, right? Minor buffs, and again, emergency patch as part of this, basically down to reasonability, if nothing else, right? So, like, the game as it exists right now exists because of the Versucha patch, right? Like, all of, like, it is just, yeah, Like, Rising is a game that I can recommend to people because of this patch. This patch was amazing. Right? This patch is just straight up, plain and simple, amazing, incredible, great, right? We've started kind of drifting back. We're nowhere near where this game was before this, right? But we started drifting back to a more stratified, like, bigger gaps between, like, the best characters and the worst characters and stuff like that. But this patch set us, like, this patch gave so much goodwill and balance direction that, like, the next patches are, they're good, but they're not as good. They're certainly, they can be a little bit questionable. And it still doesn't matter, right? This patch put us in such a good spot that, like, we're still fine. Also, I think you do have to give props to this patch for being gigantic, right? Like, 5 big system changes, 33 character changes, most of them very major, and the game actually ended up in a much bit better spot than it was before, right? That's not easy to do. It's not easy to, like, have all of these huge system changes and huge individual character changes and come out of it smelling like a rose, right? That is, like, some seriously intelligent design right there, right? Moving on, though. Moving on. It's amazing, right? I love the Versuja patch. I will never, ever, ever stop sucking the dick of the Versuja patch. What do you have to say about Lucy? Was he a miss of this patch in your eyes, how strong he became? He was a little overbuffed for sure. I think his nerfs were probably reasonable. But I think over-buffing a character is something I don't really... You know, there's a couple of characters you could argue were over-buffed in this patch, but, like, a character that was, like, bad before, at least getting a few months to be good is not, like... That's not like, what? It's okay, right? It's more so when a character has, like, been really good for a long time and we just, like, don't nerf them. That's why, like, to me, Belial is more of a miss than Lucy, right? But Lucy was definitely overbuffed in that patch, yeah. The nerfs he got later were justified and made sense. There's a very small patch in here that basically just, like, makes it... It's mostly a ranked change, right? It makes it so that it's easier to get to GM if you're not in GM, if you're beating GMs and stuff like that. And it also makes it so that GM versus GM is zero-sum, which is very good, right? This is good. That's mostly really all this patch does, right? It's like there's a couple of like bug fixes and shit in here, but like nothing is really that meaningful. This is good, right? This is just a minor but good patch. GM being zero-sum needs to happen. So it's not an elo system at GM, but it's as close as we currently have. The fact that you could just, like, even if when you won a GM battle, you got 50 points. When you lost 35 is what it used to be. Meant that even if you just, like, spent enough time online, you were gonna climb. How you know, you just had, like, you had a very low win rate necessary to climb in GM. Now you have to be, like, beating GMs consistently. It makes GM significantly more, difficult, which I think it should be, right? I think it should be. I know it certainly can lead to some, like, very rough sessions where, like, you have, you know, you lose, like, 600 crystals because you owe 5 GM matches or something, but, it happens. It happens. GM, the highest rank in the video game should be very punishing, I think. And I like the fact that it makes it this, and it also makes it so that, you know, the guys who, like, it's easier to, if you're beating GMs, it's easier to catch up when you're in Master, right? Because it used to be, again, I forget the exact numbers, but if you beat, you get 10 points for beating a GM as a Master before, now it's 75, right? Which is the other big change. It's a good patch. Vikala patch is very small. I would argue that the Vikala patch got a little bit of, like, a bad rap because it came after the Versuja patch, which was so huge that people were like, holy shit, more patch. And the Vikala patch is mostly a bug fix patch. Mostly, right? Vikala gets added, and, you know, like, there's some bug fixes, right? Like, some bug fixes on Matera's UDP, some bug fixes on Zeta's JU, right? A color swap on Zoe, right? I mean, Gosha cooldown increased by 25 frames. There's some double combo limit stuff people used to be able to do, like Versuja and stuff like that, right? But, like, this is a bug fix patch. I don't really know if I would call this patch disappointing. Some of the double combo limit stuff it was, you know, it's good. Like, it was like a nerf in some ways to characters like Versuja and Belial and stuff like that, right? I'll argue that, you know, Vikala herself was released incredibly undertuned. So, I feel like, okay, because basically nothing really happened in this patch, despite the fact that there were, like, clearly some outliers were obvious from the Versuja patch very quickly, right? Characters like Lucilius, like Belial, like Catalina, stuff like that. And they didn't even get, like, minor tweaks or nerfs or something like that. And the DLC character that comes out is maybe the weakest DLC release ever, in that she got pretty majorly buffed in the Sandalphon patch and is still probably bottom 1, right? I think it's probably fair to call the Vikala patch disappointing, right? nothing really changes. And I understand the hesitancy, but also the DLC is very weak, right? So it's got really there's only negatives here. Nothing really changes except for a very bad DLC character. I can't really put that in a mixed bag, I don't think, right? Sandalphon patch. This is another major patch, which is very nice. Mostly a universal mechanic patch. There are some buffs in here, but they clearly are never going to do a patch the size of the Versuga patch ever again, right? And they probably shouldn't. They probably don't need to, right? But the big thing here, Brave counter is minus on block, right? We're almost done. Don't worry. The Versuga patch is most of what I want to talk about today. But Brave counter is minus on block. Yes, it used to be +6 on block. That's correct. And also, all DPs and reversals and parries and 5 U's that are parries and stuff like that, except for U DPs or U parries and all of that, are now counter hit recovery. This is one of the most, like, I love the Sandalphon patch because, like, all of these changes feel like they should have been there the whole time. BC was +6. Right? It wasn't just plus. It was +6. 6. Right? Like, it'd be one thing if BC was, like, +1 and there was, like, some fucked up, like, RPS. 6. BC was +6 on block, which is just crazy. And yeah, so BC being minus, it should have been that way the entire time. BC is still too good, but, like, this is a very necessary nerf, and it's the one kind of major system change that was missing from the Versuga patch, right? Also, DPs being made counter hit recovery, amazing. That feels like it should have been there the whole time, right? It makes meterless the gap between meterless and non-meterless DP characters feel much smaller because meterless DPs are a little bit worse now because they're much riskier, right? Same thing with parries and all of that too. And they also made a lot of, so there's a lot of changes in here, but don't get misled. A lot of them are either, you know, just universal adjustments were made. So like if you had a DP, like, you know, Gran, I think, Gran actually wasn't. Gran got some buffs. Were you? Yeah, like mostly, you know, universal bug fixes and universal adjustments means her DP is now counter hit, right? But yeah, so, you know, Gran gets a couple of nice buffs, right? Gran was already pretty good, but, like, his fireball gets better as a zoning tool on counter hit and stuff like that, right? He gets some nice stuff. Jita gets the universal changes. Catalina gets slapped on the wrist. Her frozen blade becomes -4 on block if it's point blank. Who cares, right? And her corner carry gets teensy bit worse. She has to do far L after her light wall launch now instead of auto combo. It gets a little worse. She gets 95% of the screen corner carry instead of 150. Now again, her corner carry actually got much worse, but you can only go up to 100. So like 150 to 95 is the same as a 5% decrease, right? Catalina she gets basically not. She's still an amazing character. She's just as good as she was, pretty much, right? Charlotta mostly gets nerfed in this patch. Her DP gets made very -15. A lot of, as part of the Sandalphon patch, kind of like one of the universal things is a lot of the more safe on block DPs get made much more minus, right? Much more punishable. So Charlotta gets that, right? Lancelot mostly gets the universal adjustments. Percy gets the universal adjustments. Ladiva gets the universal adjustments. So Matera gets buffed a lot in this patch. I don't mind this. I think that a lot of these buffs are good buffs. I like the fact that you can't roll Matera's arrows on reaction and kill her for it, etc., etc. However, I do think this is a slight miss in that at this point, you need to nerf U Butterfly, I think. I think it was okay to have U Butterfly be as good of a move as it was when Matera, like, didn't have that much of a functional zoning kit. But these buffs are really big. They made the startups on a lot of her shit 2 frames faster, which matters everywhere. It helps on her pressure, on her combos, on her neutral, her zoning, obviously, right? So, like, Matera, like, these are huge buffs, which I am in favor of in general. A lot of Matera's moves were really bad. However, again, before, Matera was a bad character with an amazing move in U Butterfly. Now, she's a pretty good to great character with an amazing move in U Butterfly. When you're, like, a shit character and you have one move that kind of carries your kit, okay, that's fine. When you're, like, actually, like, a solid, competent character in all ranges, and then you have an amazing move, that just becomes, you know, it's Percival with Flame Carpet, that's Matera with Butterfly, that's Lorraine with Eating, right? It becomes a problem. So I do think that there should have been a compensation nerf given out here, in that U Butterfly, at the very least, should have gone away on hit. Or maybe, again, made to last less, no refunds on meter anymore. You could have nerfed that move a lot, considering how big of a buff you gave Matera in this patch, right? I mean, these are all of her arrows. This is all of her zoning all of her pressure, everything, gets a 2-frame startup increase, which also means a 2-frame total recovery decrease as well, by the way, right? Like, if the move was 50 frames before, part of that was the startup frames. So now it's 48 frames. Right? So yeah, big deal. And a slight mistake in not buff, or a relatively big mistake, I think, in not compensation nerfing the U-Butterfly, right? Luang gets universal adjustments. Fairy also gets Giga buffed. Now, controversially, I think this is fine. I think Fairy gets buffed a lot, and I think she was very good, but, like, a fine character. I think Fairy was a strong, like, high-tier zoner or something like that. That's okay, right? Zoners can be good. She has since been kind of, like, nerfed, I think, way more than she should have been. But I personally never really thought that Fairy was, like, a problem, even after this. I know she won Evo Japan. I don't really care. I think a high-tier character could totally win a major. There's nothing surprising about that, right? But I think Japan really hated this character. But basically, her far L gets made 7 frames, which is a really big deal, right? This, like, making your far L, which is her fastest poke, basically, go a frame faster is a really big deal. It's got less recovery on it. The attack level and the clash level on all of her normals got increased, and the startup got reduced. How Matera got all of her arrows buffed. Fairy's zoning is in her normals. All of Fairy's normals got buffed, or their clash level increased. It's a big deal, right? You got these are big buffs to Fairy. But Fairy was very bad before this, and she was like good and solid after this, I think, right? Zeta gets no. Zeta does not lose her 50-50 in this patch. Yeah, Zeta gets she gets some. They make it easier to do some of her shits here, basically, right? Zeta gets like the Grimnir buffering input before, well, like a lot of the you know. There are fewer 1-frame links on her Spear of Arvest stuff, though they still exist. But, you know, some combos get made a little bit easier and stuff like this, right? Zeta mostly just gets made a little bit easier to play. Voss is universal adjustments. Narmaya's universal adjustments, except for Transient, which is a big buff, right? This gives her an invincible anti-fireball tool she can use. Sora is universal. Zoe, I don't know, man. She gets like nothing, I guess. The beam is easier to combo off of on all hits, but the final. So if the final one doesn't land, right, you get some better hits. Oh, this is where they give her the dust loop. Oh, this is in 2.0. She gets dust loops. That's cool, right? She gets the dust loops here. That's not bad. Kag gets nerfed, actually, a little bit here. She loses her combo limit reset on Ars Magna. Used to be, basically, she would launch you, do her full combo. Combo limit will be nearly up, and then she would have a trap behind you. Ars Magna you into it. It goes back down to 0. You land in the trap, and she gets to just do a full auto combo into an end thereafter. It made her damage very high, and it doesn't work anymore that way. Also made her supers easier to punish, and they made her DP even more punishable, right? So Kag gets some, like, noticeable nerfs for sure. You all get some nice buffs. Her stance combos get a little bit better, right? And Hanadashi gets a little bit faster, right? Her, like, double overhead spinning kind of thing, the backflip. It's not an overhead, but, you know, where she, like, jumps forwards and does the 2 kind of slams. Uno gets universal changes, Eustace, Seox, Vera, Bubs, right? I think, yeah, so Belial, believe it or not, is actually the second biggest loser of this patch. This is actually the patch where Belial gets nerfed, right? His 2M gets nerfed a lot, so he can't get 3 2Ms on block anymore. Belial 2M, if you don't know, is plus on block, so it's a little silly if this was ever really a thing. But yeah, he'd be able to get, like, he'd be able to run up, and then even on block, you could get, like, you know, you could run up, you could do 1, 2, 3, back to back to back, and they were all plus, right? And at any one of those points where you can't mash because the plus on block 2M is coming, you could also decide to, like, go for something fake, like, you know, 1 into throw or something like that, you know? Or like 1 into, like, command grab or something. So now you can only get 2 ever, right? You can get 3 before. The pushback has been increased. In some ways, this can help him space can trap after 2Ms sometimes, but, you know. His far H also got nerfed a little bit, right? His parry stomp got made universally punishable, not just based on height. His EX fireball got nerfed quite a bit. This is like the really big nerf that he got, is that this is minus point blank now, so he has to space it out to be plus. He has to be in like sort of far M range for it to be even +1, where it was +2 point blank. His U fireball pushes back on block. This is a side grade, I'm not gonna lie to you. Right, there's also a bigger gap in his follow-up here. This thing has a 7-frame gap between, you know, when the wheel starts spinning and when it starts hitting, which means everyone can mash on this now. It used to be a 3-frame gap, so you have to have a meterless DP to do anything about it. So that's also a pretty big nerf to his pressure, right? And again, his U parry also gets made universally punishable, and his DP gets made a little bit less safe. Not as much as, like, the other characters. He still gets a little bit of his privilege, but it does get made a little bit less safe, right? Belial is still a very good character, but this is the patch that makes him reasonable, right? He's just a strong, you know, low top-tier-ish character right now. Belial is not really the problem, and he's not like a toxic character inherently. He just had too much, and now he has a good amount, right? Avatar Universal, Anila gets a slight buff here to make her H sheep. Well, not a slight buff. Her H sheep converts off her normals more consistently, which is quite nice for her. Actually, it's a pretty like minor, like minorly moderate buff. You know, to Anila. This makes it. This is certainly very good for her, right? It's not like, oh my god, Anila's broken now, but that's that. This is very, very. They didn't go all the way with this. This should be like 12 frames probably, so it always connects no matter where she hits you from. But yeah, Sieg also gets hit very hard in this patch again. Basically, he loses a lot of conversions off Orchid. It's a lot of damage, right? He used to be able to do stuff like this. So if I pull up Mr. Siegfried, right, and I go bonk, oh, please get hit near. If I go like 6XL, far L into Orkin, they used to combo, right? So it meant that Siegfried had very, very nice mid-screen off his 6XL regardless, right? I could also do 2U into Orkin, and it would combo, right? Get a very nice 2U, 7 frames, right? Big low. Can't do that anymore either. So his mid-screen gets hit a lot, and also his DP gets made so that on whiff, it's got a way bigger recovery. It doesn't just instantly checkmate you anymore. I'm not going into too much detail because we've been talking about this for a while, but you get the idea, right? Siegfried, these are both actually, combined with already taking like the dumbest stuff off of him in the last patch, in the Versucha patch, right? This is pretty. These nerfs hurt Siegfried pretty bad. He's still good, but like Siegfried is not really in the conversation for top tier anymore. I wouldn't think. He's still very strong. He's still a very solid character, however, right? Grimnir gets. Hey Brick, I was watching your Lil Wayne VOD and it was so gross I came here instead. Yeah, I don't know, man. Grimnir he gets extra recovery on his far H, which is very nice, right? That is a good, giving that button more of a weakness is a good thing. I think otherwise he's mostly the same. Wall bounce increased on Deathrite Tempest, so it makes it a little bit more of a consistent follow-up. It's gone now, which is funny, but interesting. Oh yeah, and he doesn't get the SBA gauge refund on some things after the H ball. Sure. But yeah, Grim, mostly the same, slightly nerfed in this patch, right? Nier is the same. Lucilius is actually the biggest loser of this patch, and it's this one line. Blade level now rises on block and whiff. It rises less, basically. Right? This right here, if you look at that gauge up there, where like when I cast it, the special, I get a little bit first, and then I get more when it hits her. That second bit, I don't get if she blocks. And that didn't used to be the case. It used to be that Lucy would just get it all the time. That might not seem like a lot, but the big thing with Lucy, basically, is that with the Ascaria changes, giving him a Blade level last patch, as well, in the Versucha patch, that is, and then also making it so that Blade level 5 was way scarier than it used to be, that combined with his existing Blade level buildup that he had before that, made it so he got BL5 pretty much every round without even really needing to interact with you too much, right? They wanted to make it so Lucy had to actually be hitting you to get the Blade level. The problem is that as it ends up, basically, Lucy does not get, like, it's very matchup specific when Lucy is going to get BL5 or not, and usually it requires him to spend a lot more time in that 5U stance, which is a very counter-playable stance for your opponent, right? Because his 5U will just charge his Blade level over time, right? And he can do, like, things, if you try to run him, he can do this, he can anti-air with this, right? And all builds up Blade level. So, like, this is the only way that Lucy, like, ever gets BL anymore, right? Like, if he ever gets to BL5, it's because he's using this a lot, right? He can still use his specials and stuff like that. He can still use, like, Ascariate and combos, right? He can still, do stuff like this, and he gets the full gauge and all of that. But, Lucy does kind of a lot of damage, even without BL. So, like, most of the time, if he just, like, does a mid-screen combo on your ass like this, like, you're probably just going to, like, die before he gets to BL5, outside of him being able to do a lot of this. Now, how much of this he can do is very matchup specific, right? There are some characters that have a much harder time, like Nier over here, stopping Lucilius from doing this than others, right? But by and large, I think these are good changes. I think Lucy is still a pretty solid character, and I think that he can maybe get like a little bit of extra love, but I think he's not weak or anything like that. And yeah, he just didn't need to interact with people. Painfully mid, yeah, but mid's not bad, right? He just didn't need to interact with you to win in the patch before this, right? So I think these are good changes. Oh yeah, 2B basically like the universal changes mostly. Omega mid? Yeah, again, mid is not, unfortunately, mid does not mean bad. There are still, to this day, there are still like 15 characters worse than Lucilius or something like that. Mostly universal, and Vikala gets some nice buffs. Still bad after this, but a lot of her items get buffed. He has many equals, that's right. He has superiors too. He has betters. She gets buffed a lot. All of her items get buffed. You can see her next item. If you don't know, Vikal's release was very, very funny. It's crazy this was a thing. But, oh, Beelzebub. No, you're not Vikala. You're not my daughter. This right here, right? You see how Vikala can see what her next item is? And when it switches, you can see... Oh, it's not going to switch because I have it set to be star by default, right? But yeah, you know, she can see what her next item is, and when it switches, she can see that it's switched, and she can play around this and all of that, right? That just wasn't a thing when she came out, which is very funny. So she got that in this patch, alongside a lot of buffs to her items. Spike Ball got made much better. A lot of her good items in particular, Cannonball, Bomb, Spike Ball, got better. Keys and Hearts at least did something. They have a hitbox now all the time. It's something. She's still very bad, right? This is, you know. So yeah, I mean, overall, this patch is certainly not the Versucha patch. No patch will ever be. But I think, by and large, the universal system mechanic changes are amazing. These feel like they feel so at home. It feels like they should have been like this the entire time. They should have been like this on release. And like most of the changes are pretty good, right? Most of the changes are pretty good. There's a lot of characters who didn't get changed. The ones who did, you know, like good buffs for Gran, a slap on the slap on the wrist nerf to Catalina, I guess, right? But like, you know, it's something, right? Mostly good buffs to Fairy and Matera, though a fumble on Matera for sure. Right, a change to Narm. You could argue buffing Narm's a little bit weird, but I don't think Narm is quite as broken as most people do. So I like that transient change, giving her like a more useful anti-zoning tool in Genji, right? Like a lot of good changes, like a handful of good character changes, and insanely nice universal mechanic changes, right? So I would refer to the Sam Lafon patch, I think, as major and good. Okay, these next two are relatively recent, so I'm not going to talk about them in that much detail, right? I think most people have probably played the game since before these came out, or at the very least started on the Galleon patch or something like that, right? Counter DPs were a good idea, very, very much so. That and Brave Counter being minus on block. When they did that, I was like, wait a second, why wasn't this like this on release? Like, it was almost like, it feels like such a natural part of the video game, right? So, real quick, right? Galleon, there are not, like, huge system changes here. I think Galleon herself is a good DLC release. She's strong, but not, like, insane or anything like that, right? You know, she also is, you know, very, very fun for me personally, right? More punish training added to the training mode menu, so you can like figure out how to punish certain characters. Is nice, right? It's not, from what I've seen, it's not like the most comprehensive thing, but it's nice for newer players, right? Granblue, literally, who gives a fuck? This patch is interesting. It removes fuzzies entirely, except for Fairy, basically, and Zeta can still double overheads with her JU, but it removes fuzzies entirely, and it buffs Ladiva quite a lot. Ladiva gets buffed in basically every way. She gets made, her reversals get better, her defense gets better, she has 5 frame SPD, all of her damage goes up, all of her damage goes up, all of her damage goes up, all of her damage goes up. The Lariats get made better neutral tools, they beat backdash better, her damage goes up, her damage goes up, her damage goes up. Vasaraga also, this is the final Jenga block that I've been alluding to the whole time. Voss has been the biggest winner, arguably, of 2 different patches, and he's the biggest winner of this one, too. And this is probably where they go too far, in my opinion, for the first time. I mean, Voss gets a lot of things. His 5M is a really good button now. A lot of his heavies get buffed, all of this. The tackles get better, right? The big thing, though, is they make Soulforge a gauge. So, where before, when Vasaraga hit 5U on Soulforge, but when Vasaraga hit 5U, he would just get 1 instance of the armor, and then it would go away, right? Now, when he uses an armor move, he gets this gauge, and he has to keep using them for a little bit, right? So Voss can, like, quite easily use 3 armor moves per gauge. Which, you know, feels pretty weird. Because, like, for example, you know, say Vasaraga gets armor, he does this, you block it, and he gets another armor move immediately if he so desires, right? You can't, like, mash into this, and he gets another armor move right away, and then he does this, and then you try to swing back into him, and he does that, and kills you for it, right? So this gauge is huge. It's just the fact that he gets Soulforge before this got buffed was in contention for best 5U in the game, and they basically made it 3 times as good. Yeah, and all of his combo, he got like way better combo routes in this patch too, right? Because of like this, you know, 5M being a much better button for converting at range, as well as increasing the speed on his battalions, like or his little march like that makes him get auto combo here now, right? His damage just went up everywhere, and his neutral got better, and his defense got a little better, and, you know, everything got better, right? Everything got better on Vasaraga, and his win condition got significantly better. They just buffed this man to hell and back, which is, I would consider a mistake. I would consider this a mistake. Beelzebub also got buffed a lot. This character I would consider also to have been pretty good. So, you know, it's certainly interesting. He didn't get buffed as much as like Voss or Diva, but he was better than either of them before these buffs dropped. He got made a lot better in Fireball Wars. He got more safe jumps. He got better pressure. He got better combos off his dive kick, right? So, you know, interesting, certainly. Nier gets some really big buffs in that, like, you know, death doesn't disappear after throw break now. So Nier can actually strike throw, you know? Some of her buttons get buffed. You know, she gets more charge on hitting you with 5U when death is recovering. But she also gets, like, one of the world's biggest compensation nerfs in Ominous Turn, getting its distance basically cut in a third if when you use it in neutral, which was basically her best tool. And Nier at this point is a bottom 1 character, right? So, like, or a bottom 2 character. So, like, the idea that they give her all these nice buffs and also this gigantic compensation buff is very unfortunate. So I would consider overall, I mean, I know they're being careful with Nier, and I understand why. These are a lot of good buffs, and Nier is better after this patch. But this is also a little strange to me. This is like a, right? Vayne, they just actually buff Vayne to be like a real character now, right? His 5U was made a real move, from like literally the worst 5U in the game to one of the best, mostly because the armor goes through the whole thing. Used to be he would armor while he was like charging up, and he would slam down, and he would counter hit him mid slam down and kill him. It was a joke move, right? It can combo off it now as well, right? And it does more damage, and his JU kind of is like a Zoe Dust Loop thing, sort of, though not as good. His combos are more consistent with this. He gets way better mid-screen with this. His zoning is better with this. This is like a weird side grade. It does more damage, but it's faster, but also the 2 hits means it's worse on counter hits, right? The shield is better at catching jump-ins, mostly, right? Yeah, Vayne gets buffed a lot, right? Vayne gets buffed a lot in this patch. He goes from a bottom 1 contender to like probably a solid mid-tier character, right? Beatrix gets, I believe, yeah, this is where Beatrix gets nerfed a decent bit, I think, right? She's still good, very good, but you know, her fireball launches now. They buff her command grab, right? They buff her command grab, but her fireball launches. They counter hit L riding free is no longer a combo starter, which it always was. That was very good. Now counter hit M riding free is a combo starter, right? But that is much less common, right? Riding free for the U and H versions, it's low, mid, instead of like low, so you can't ever like accidentally hold back in the middle of it and die. And also the risk reward on this is way worse, because it's -8 instead of -6, which I've talked about at length recently, so I'll go into. And you know, similar thing for this one. So B, you know, she's still really good, but these are you know, good nerfs to Beatrix. Versucha as well gets nerfed. She's worse, certainly. Her power level is only a little lower, but it's in much less ridiculous ways, right? We've talked about Versucha again recently and at length, but you know, her 5L is a much less stupid button now. Her 5U is not plus on block. Her corner carry is about as good, but she does about half as much damage as she used to, right? This character's worse. H Pillar is a lot worse. She got some compensation buffs in the form of like M Pillar and Emanitia, but I don't know that I necessarily hate it that much, right? A lot of the dumb ways in which Versucha was strong are gone mostly, I think. She is still a very good character now, and it'd be nice if she got it like tuned down a little bit. But I think a lot of the stupidest things about her are gone, right? This is like a good way to nerf the character without like shooting her in the head. And to be fair, it's not like there's a middle ground there. They could have nerfed her a little harder for sure, right? But I think while she's still very good, she's not a super toxic character like she used to be, right? Now, on the principle, the fact that she's been top tier for like a year, I think we could definitely tune her down a little bit, but she's less toxic than she used to be, right? Kind of like Catalina. Like, Catalina is stupid-ass character, very strong, but, you know, like, I'm more upset with, like, Lowain being the strength level he is versus, like, Catalina, for example. You know, though, again, both of them, Catalina's been top tier for a year, she's probably get nerfed, right? Sandalphon got a quality of life fix, right? And there's some weird bug fixes in here. This one eventually causes a problem with Fairy next patch, but I don't know if this is major. I feel like it kind of, there's a lot of changes in here, but a lot of them are a little strange. You know what I mean? A lot of them are a little bit strange. Like, I think the Diva buffs are not very relevant for highest level play, but I think this character is probably a bit of a terror in, you know, for like 85% of the player base or something right now. Voss, I would call a mistake. Bubs is like okay, I guess. Nier is like weird. It's just like they just, you know, it leaves like a bad taste in my mouth, like how they gave her these buffs and they also just like cut one of her legs off. So I would call this like almost a mistake as well. Vayne's nice. I like the B nerfs, right? Nerf the character, but still keep her, like, again, I don't want every character to get Niered, right? They nerfed her, but she still got good stuff, right? She's still very strong. Similar-ish thing with the Versuja thing. Though again, both of these characters could probably stand to go a little further on, just because again they've just been so good for so long, kind of thing. So like, you know, good. Oh, okay, right? We can nerf them a little further, but it's a good start, right? Good. Okay, I guess. A mistake all the time, and a mistake for a lot of the cast, probably, right? So like, I personally love the Galleon patch because I am the big body guy, and I love the big bodies getting buffed. But it's probably a mixed bag, right? It's probably a mixed bag. There's just not that... the removal of fuzzies is also a little weird. Zeta actually ends up being the biggest loser of that patch, despite not having an icon there, because fuzzies aren't there anymore. I get it, though. I get why they did it, but it does feel a little heavy-handed as a solution, right? It's a mixed bag. Galleon is cool. It's not a bad patch. It's not a great patch. It's an okay patch. I think the Galleon patch is an okay patch if you're looking at it like somewhat objectively. I love it because it's Ladiva buffs and Vasaraga buffs, but I think, you know, for the game's health, it's like one of those, it's one of those patches that starts to like pull us away from like the very balanced state that we are in post Versuja patch, relatively balanced state, right? And I think the wellness patch here, the most recent patch, kind of does more of that. It does more of that pulling, right? Wellness is very good, I think. He's not like a problem, though maybe maybe he needs a little bit of tuning when Meg comes out, like a little bit of tuning down maybe. But he's not like a problem. He's very fun. He's my favorite DLC ever. Again, if I'm being subjective, right? He's my favorite DLC ever. Universal change is not too much. We do have to give credit for this patch for one thing. This patch, before I even get to the changes, it introduces Wellness, but it also puts in EX Gran, EX Jita, EX Narmaya. That's really cool, right? That's really cool. Like we do have to. I want to preface this by saying that the EX characters introduced as a concept is one of the coolest things that one of these patches has ever done, right? However, I have some opinions on the balance changes in this patch, right? Jita's fine. Jita gets some nice buffs. We're not going to talk about it too much. We just talked about it, right? Jita's fine. She gets some nice buffs. Jita is a solid character. These are not huge buffs to make her a little better, right? It's cool. Lance was really bad for a long time. He gets a lot of nice buffs, but he needs them. That's fine. Okay, first problem. Percy, they nerf Flame Carpet, but not really. Because you can Brave counter it, but he can just still space it outside of Brave counter range. So this is like not even... I will say, I don't inherently mind compensation buffs. I don't. I know people hate this idea of like, well, you know, when we're nerfing top tiers, already give them anything. I don't mind compensation buffs. If we're taking away a really good tool from a character, taking some of their like lesser used skills and making them more useful isn't a bad thing. I don't mind that at all. The problem, and Percy is the most obvious example of this besides maybe Versuja patch Belial or Matera later in this patch, is when we don't really nerf them at all. We don't take anything away from them. We kind of give them a slap on the wrist and then give them a bunch of compensation buffs, right? There's a very important difference to note there, right? This is a slap on the wrist for Flame Carpet, right? The best place to use this move most of the time is outside of Brave counter distance anyways. Yeah, you can't throw bait with this anymore, I guess. And the Percy does have to think about the spacing. But this move is 94% as good as it was before this patch, right? It's 94% as good as it was before this patch. So it's not really that big of a nerf to Flame Carpet. And the rest of this is entirely buffs. Right? The rest of this is entirely buffs. 6-6H, buffed. Okay, no. The DP is not going to catch spot dodging people anymore. That's a nice nerf, but it's more of an edge case thing, right? But that's good. M command dash, buffed. Very important, because Percy's cooldown on that command dash is like his whole neutral. So making the M command dash better, playing him to master made me realize this. Making the M command dash and its follow-ups better is a really big deal, because Percy relies on that command dash for like everything. It's his hit confirms, it's his neutral, it's his pressure, it's everything, right? It's what he uses to get stocks, to like knock you back to get stock, it's everything. So making the non-cooldown consuming version better in any way is a big deal, right? All versions of the gun are easier to clean hit with. This is a really big deal, right? Because what does this mean? This means that now, if I have stock up, as Percival, right? And I, want to conserve my command dash cooldown because I need it. It's very important. This used to be 2,900 damage, right? Whereas, this was 4,400. That's a big damage difference. Now, to be fair, this is now 3,400, where it's 4,400, so it's 1,000 damage difference. That's that's 500 is a very big difference, right? 500 damage difference here is a very big deal, right? Like, going from doing 29 to 34, 3,400 damage off of FAR-M is very good, right? That's good damage. So it's gonna clean hit more often too, right? So this is like, this makes it so if I want, as Percy, I really can just do, I can really just do this into like stock back up. I don't feel too bad about it, right? It feels very nice. I can conserve my most important cooldown while still getting, a similar amount of value, right? This is a very nice buff for Percival. And they also just make his U-Gun a combo starter now. So it's not like they buffed Percival to hell and back or anything, but like, this is like a really nice buff. This is like an Anila, you know what this is? This is like the equivalent to like Anila getting her H sheep to confirm off like FAR-L, FAR-M more commonly, right? A very nice buff. It's not gonna like, oh my god, the character's broken now by its own, but it's like a noticeable buff. This is very nice, right? This is pretty nice as well. It opens up some pretty situational combo routes, but like it lets him do something else with his stocks if he ends up with 9 stocks, which like Percy, Percy can use 2-2U very often if he has some extra meters, so like he could find himself with a lot of stocks. He can do a lot of damage if he lands one of these off like a counter hit close H into this. That probably becomes his optimal now, right? So cool. And like again, this is like a decent buff as well. This is also nice. It means it can be trickier with his M Rekka, which again means he doesn't have to use his H Rekka as much, right? This is gonna make his damage and hit confirms more consistent. These are lots of like minor to moderate buffs for Percival, and like this is like a nothing burger nerf. It's like kind of matters sometimes, and this is kind of a nothing burger nerf, right? So they just buffed Percival in this patch. Percival is better now than he was before Wellness dropped, which is weird because I think I had Percival as like maybe sniffing the bottom of top tier kind of thing, and I think I was a Percival down player by most people's standards. This is a character a lot of people had in like top 3, top 4, top 5, and he got buffed this patch. Really unequivocally, right? This is a very minor nerf. This is a very minor nerf, and the rest of these are like minor to like pretty nice buffs. So Percival got buffed. That's bad, right? Like this is worse. Like Belial in the Versucha patch got nerfed, but like it was so minor that we were like, what are we doing, people? Percy is just better now than he was, straight up, right? And he's like an equivalent to Belial's strength character before this patch. Belial was like roughly top 5 before he got his pseudo nerf in the Versucha patch. Percival, a top 5 Percival is not like an insane thing to say in the Gallium patch, right? And he got buffed. He didn't just get like mildly nerfed. No, he got buffed. So cool. Matera, I mean, even ignoring the fact that like this has like straight up, okay, you can't really ignore that, right? Matera always had like really fucky U butterfly loops and stuff like that. I've talked about this at length. However, this patch made it go from like a 1 frame link to like a 5 frame link. It's significantly easier, and while it's not a problem today, Matera is like doing 9,000 damage off FAR-L, 10,000 damage off FAR-L, sometimes 12,000 damage off FAR-L, hell, even 7,000 damage off FAR-L, which he should not be doing. It's gonna happen more and more and more and more commonly as more setups are found, the more people spend time labbing it, because why the fuck wouldn't you, right? Because it gives the character just the best reward in the game on every button that she has. So this is a little bit game-breaking, to say it lightly, right? This is a problem. Right? You didn't need to do this. And again, U Butterfly got nerfed. This is a meaningful nerf to U Butterfly, more so than Flame Carpet. However, U Butterfly was a better move than Flame Carpet, and this is still overall a moderate nerf to U Butterfly, Like, you could have very easily made this thing go away on hit, go away on block, not meter refund anymore, add damage scaling to it in combos, and do this. And people would have been like, okay, that's reasonable, right? So, like, this is the best move in the game. So, again, this is, like, not that big of a nerf to it. We didn't, like, take U Butterfly away from her or something. I was saying, I was saying loud with a fucking blowhorn before this patch dropped. We need to nerf U Butterfly a lot, but I would actually be okay if Matera got some stuff in return if we did that, right? Now, instead, we didn't nerf U Butterfly that much, and we just kind of gave her this, which I don't think is intentional, quite how much damage he's doing off of it. But unfortunately, again, Metera is a pretty big miss as well in this patch. Yeah, I mean, she needs to be nerfed. This needs to be reverted, right? This needs to be reverted. You can't make those combos as realistic as they are. They used to only have to start off like U butterfly set on blocking a DP, so it like only works against UL DP. Now like any particularly set up light or M butterfly or any U butterfly ever can go into just these loops that do, you know, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12k damage off any starter, right? So like this is broken, literally. It still is. I have since walked back that I don't think it needs to be like hotfixed yesterday, but it does need to be reverted soon. You can't give people like months to lab this, or it's going to become a very big problem, right? I don't even think it's months. It might even be weeks, but yeah. So unfortunately, a pretty big miss. Fairy gets nerfed pretty hard in this patch, and also there's a bug that means her Pharrell doesn't really work that well. Her Pharrell is broken after Elgish Penst. I don't know how that happened, but Fairy's, like, her most important button is literally broken in the bad way. It doesn't function. And also, I would argue she got over-nerfed here. That's more subjective. I know some people thought Fairy was very strong, sure. But again, it just kind of broke her Pharrell. And I would still, and again, I'm going to at least say that I think she did get nerfed. She got nerfed more than Metera did, and Metera was universally accepted to be better than Fairy, right? So it's still weird. It's still strange, right? Unfortunately, Fairy, I would consider a little bit of a miss as well, right? Sora's looks very normal now in comparison to some of the other stuff. But like Sora's is a character that I thought was pretty good, and he got nerfed, or he got buffed immensely. He got healing in his install. He got better combo routes everywhere. He got more damage, right? So like Sora's, I would argue, is also a little bit of a miss. I don't think this character, there are characters way, no, even if you think Sora's is like he's an honest mid-tier or something, there are characters way worse than Sora's who got nothing in this patch as well. But I think Sora's was actually like a top-tier contender, and now he's just like a top 5 character easily, right? So that's again, they buffed the top tier. It's a little weird. Now, this one, I think, is a miss for most people besides me. I think a lot of people thought Eustace was pretty strong last patch, and then he got buffed immensely this patch, right? But I thought Eustace was not very good, so I'm okay with him getting like some big buffs. But if you thought Eustace was like some people would tell me Eustace like he's, you know, top 10, top 11, top 12, something like that, then you would probably consider this a very strange choice of character to buff as well. Though, personally for me, I think Eustace was not great, so these are good buffs, right? Vera, these are great. These are great. I love these Vera buffs, right? They gave Vera basically everything she needed exactly, right? I have no qualms with this whatsoever. These are very good changes to Vera. She's very strong right now, I think. Not like, yeah, she's very strong. I'm not gonna shy away from that. Vera, I think, is very good right now. But that's okay. She can be good. I don't want her to be bad. It's just that they really took all the weaknesses of the character that were like really frustrating weaknesses, right? Not like inherent stuff. Like she's gotta be weak to zoning, right? She's designed to be weak to zoning. That they kept that. Like all the stuff was just kind of like, yeah, it's like not fun. They just took it all away, right? Great, amazing, and in only 4 lines as well. I'm going to not be very nice to this patch. I just want to forewarn you. But this is like incredibly elegant patching, I think, right? I do want to point out, I think the Vera changes are incredibly elegant patching. In 4 lines of patch notes and like 70 total characters or something like that, they actually just fixed everything annoying about this character, right? This is a really good job by Cygames. I want to give them credit where it's due. Really well done on Vera. Bubs is basically nothing. Avatar's a weird one. Avatar, long story short, gets buffed in this patch, but his combos get a lot more boring. This, to me, I think Abel's probably less toxic now than he was before, but I think this is a mild failure on the part of the balance team to recognize one thing that I like to say a lot when I talk about nerfing characters or even buffing characters or changing characters or anything like that is like, I never want to remove the identity of the character, right? In the sense that you know, like when we talk about like, I think Metera should, no matter what you nerf about her, she should be a very good zoner, you know? Grimm's seal dashes should remain crazy. Voss's Soul Forge should always be strong, you know? Like, the reason that players play the character, right, should not be changed. If you need to balance them in some way, shape, or form, balance around their core identity, right? give them, more weaknesses. So even though they have this one thing that's very good, they like maybe they don't get in that situation as often, or they have to like work against other things, something like that. Like Ladiva should always be very scary when she command grab. I think Ladiva, I'm biased, obviously, but I think in many ways Ladiva is good design in a lot of ways. 5 from SPD is a little funny, but Ladiva as a character has a very scary win condition, but has a lot of weaknesses she has to work through to get there that can make her, very, there's a lot of counterplay involved, and Ladiva isn't just going to like walk into that win condition all the time and win, right? They have to work to get there, and when they get there, it's very satisfying. It's a very big part of why Ladiva is as fun to play as she is, right? She's very good at the thing that you are playing her for, right? If you are playing Ladiva, you are playing her because you want to play the grappler. So you want to have the big scary command grab, right? You want to do the big damage when you command grab people, right? All of this. But like, so they did that, but she has, very bad neutral, very risky neutral options, slow walk speed, things like that. She has to like take these big risks to get in, and certain matchups just take her to fucking hell, right? With all of that being said, this is a good balance change to Abel, but this is even it's not even subjective to me. Clearly, the Abel players, this is not what they are playing the character to do, right? So I think this is a bit of a, like, they are taking away, as part of making the character more balanced, they are taking away the reason that people played the character, right? The amount of Abels who just don't play him anymore because he's not what they picked him up for is a lot, right? Even the ones who acknowledge he got better, like, people were dooming, oh, they nerfed him, they killed him. That sentiment is mostly gone, I think. It's just more so that, they made him better, but like, I don't want to play him anymore. He's not the character that I played him for in the first place, right? Imagine, Ladiva, her neutral gets way better, but like also her command grabs are like, way worse now or something like that. Like they're like reactable or something, but like, the character is way more well-rounded, and she might even get buffed as a result, right? But it's like, well, I'd be like, well, no, I play the character to put people in the corner and fucking command grab them, work the crowd. Oh, am I gonna do it again? Yeah, I am. Oh, yeah, 720, you got robbed. Like, that's the reason I play. So you could buff Ladiva, but if you took it in such a way that like she's not a grappler anymore, then I'm gonna be mad, right? I'm gonna be sad about that. So unfortunately, despite this being, I think, overall an interesting idea, for a rework, this is also kind of a miss. I don't hold this one as much against them, because clearly they were trying something here, right? They were trying something. They wanted to try a direction for Abel, and it's just not being well received, right? But like, I think it's, they were trying something, it didn't work. I just hope that they, try to somewhat walk it back in the next patch or soon, right? Like this one, this is a miss as well, but like they were trying something. I can't really be like, how dare you try like a different design choice for a character, you motherfuckers. They were trying something, it didn't work. But it is, the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, it didn't work. This is another, overall, I would call this probably a not great change in this patch, right? Grim got good nerfs. Listen, I'm sorry, I know the Grim players, some of them are like, oh, what makes him fun to me isn't there anymore. Unfortunately, in this case, the things that made him fun made him broken, right? I'm sorry, Grim, I don't have, you could make a very similar arguments about Grim as you could for Abel. I don't think so. In this case, the seal dashes are still super freeform and crazy and all of this, right? But like, a lot of the stuff that they took away have to go away, right? If that was what you found fun about Grim, I somewhat sympathize with you, but in my opinion, the character's core identity is seal dashes, and it's still there, right? It's just, if that's what you liked about Grim, the stuff you liked about him was a little broken. I don't know what to tell you, right? But Grim, good changes. 2B, buffed. I don't inherently have that big of a problem with it. I don't have the same kind of hate boner the whole community does for 2B, but I thought she was pretty good. Then again, there's a lot of characters who did not get buffed here. So, it's a little strange. It's a little strange. And then, I mean, speak of the devil, we call us a bug fix, right? So, I mean, what are we at there? Right? Good, really bad, pretty bad, maybe bad to good, very good, amazing. Basically nothing. They tried something and it didn't really work. Good nerfs, questionable character to buff, the character who needs the help the most, who's gotten nothing. Right? I mean, you could argue as well that Willness is a little too strong. I think Willness is maybe, I don't think he's like that much of a point against it or anything like that, but I think Willness is ignorant in some ways, that he maybe shouldn't be, right? And again, maybe at top level play, no, but like this is the kind of thing where, again, you did send this character out into, not just GM, the TNS weekly, you sent him out into S and A rank and shit like that, and he's a little bit belligerent, but yeah, this patch is... she was also nerfed with that bug fix. Yeah, as well as a minor nerf, yes. So this patch is not great. By Granblue patch standards, I mean, this is over a 50% miss rate, right? Am I right? Let's count wellness as, like, neutral, not good or bad. This would be a little bit nice. Basically, minor hits. It was whatever, right? Hit, big miss, right? So I'll say, like, you know, this is, like, +1, this is +2. Like, minor hits, +1. Big hits, +2. So that's, like, you know, +3 a total. Big miss, -2. Big miss, -2. Big miss, -2. -6 total. I would consider this personally a pretty big miss myself as well, especially considering who else, right? -8, right? We'll call this neutral because some people will probably think this is a horrible idea. I think it's an okay idea, but you know, I don't think Eustace was like the worst character in the game or anything, right? So we're at +3, -8, +2 here, right? Big hit on Vera, +5, nothing. -1, give him like a little bit of like they were trying something, but it didn't really work, right? So we're at -9 and +5, +2, good nerfs to Grim. +7, -1, questionable character debuff, -10, and +7 for the positives. I'll call this -2 with Vikala as well. What the fuck are we doing here? Why? What? How is she here and it's a bug fix? This also is very tone deaf. You're gonna put like one of the most popular DLC that you have, who is universally considered weak. You're gonna put her portrait here and have it be a bug fix? That like it's tone deaf, right? It's tone deaf. So this is -12 and +7 is what we're at right now, and Galleon's kind of whatever, right? So like, if you want to count the EX characters as +1, +1, +1, and one is +1, right? You want to count all 4 of them as great, fun additions to the game, right? That's still +11, -12, right? This is the first Granblue patch, I think, that the Vikala patch is disappointing because there just wasn't really anything there, right? The Wellness patch, unfortunately, I think is probably the worst patch in the game's history. Now, to be fair, most of the patches are pretty fucking good, right? So it's like, it's not that bad of a patch, but yeah, I mean, there's a high standard in this game. Cygames and Arxis, they've done a pretty good job with the patches so far, right? Versuja patch is literally the best fighting game patch I've seen in the past 10 years. Sandalphon patch is very good, very necessary. Felt like some people wanted it to be bigger, but I think it was a very good idea. Vayne patch was amazing, right? A lot of very needed nerfs in that patch, as well as good system changes, right? Emergency patch had to happen. 2B patch was good. Lucy patch was good. Ranked patch was good, right? Galleon and Beatrix patches are kind of whatever. This is mostly a meme. This is a good patch, but like it put Nier in the game. Like, okay, realistically, this patch is like major and good, realistically, right? Like, if we're being honest, the fact that like Nier's her own problem. She's not like, the patch it was not a DLC character release, right? Like, this patch is major and good. Nier is her own thing. The developers fucked up. It's not really this patch's fault. Yeah, so like there's just a lot of really good patches in the game. However, the Wellness patch I think is like by quite a while. In fact, I think like it's kind of a different. I think I want to put a row above here that's just like kind of nothing burger, right? Like this is nothing burger, right? Like the call patch isn't a bad patch. It just, you know, it's just like, well, nothing happened, right? And there were some things they could have done for sure, right? This patch is mostly just like, it's not like it's a terrible patch or anything like that. It's just kind of a nothing burger, right? Like it's a little disappointing in that sense because we wanted more, but also it was on the heels of literally the biggest patch we've ever seen. So it's kind of, I was expecting it to be small. I just didn't expect it to be that small, right? But yeah, the Wellness patch I think does unfortunately have to share the sort of unique dishonor of being the only patch here because it's just, most of it's bad, right? Unfortunately, most of it is bad. Yeah, like, most of it's bad. I don't like saying that, because I mean, I love Wellness, and I think a lot of the changes that are good are very good, but most of it's bad, right? Over half the patch is not good. And not, like, in terrible ways, right? Like, the only, like, you know, Fairy's like, really, man? Swords is like, really, man? You know, like, the only, like, truly, like, huge misses, I think, are these two, probably. Like, Matera and Percy and Vikala, right? These are, like, the only three things that I'm like, what are we fucking doing here, right? Whereas, like, you know, stuff like this and this are kind of this more like, we're gonna like buff Swords to the mood and leave Vikala there. I don't know. But yeah, it's not a good patch, right? It's not a good patch. As much as I love Wellness, and I mean, I love the EX characters so much, and I feel like you could certainly give more credit for that too, right? And I think the 3 EX characters that got released were very good ideas. I think like Wellness is maybe a little too good, maybe, but he's also a very fun character. He's very unique. He's a very cool design. His voice acting, his visuals are all amazing, right? EX Gran is very cool. EX Jita is a very fun new spin on Jita, right? EX Narmaya is super funny, and like she does like the fucking 13 side swaps and a combo and stuff, and they're all like good enough to like be worth playing and using, I think, right? None of them are like bad, and none of them are like broken, I don't think. So the EX characters are like very well done, and my guess is that the reason that the balancing is a little bit wonkier is because they were, for the first time ever, releasing 4 characters in a patch instead of one. And also, like, since the Versuja patch, this is the most character changes we've gotten, right? This is the second biggest patch we've ever gotten, besides maybe the Vayne patch, you could argue. So, like, I understand, but it's just not good, right? The patch is not good, and I think, you know, mixed bag Galleon patch, combined with some misses in the Sandalphon patch, as well as like a pretty not great Wellness patch, they're slowly eroding the good balance of the game that the GOAT created, right? The Versuja patch left the game in a really good spot, and we're in a good spot still. I would like, if someone asked me, do you think Granblue's balance is in a good spot? Yes or no? I would say yes. But like a year ago, I would have said it's in a great spot, and now I'd be like, yes, but some caveats, right? I think the Meg patch is pretty important, in that if the Meg patch is a miss of this level, I think, you know, we kind of tilt into like an unfavorable territory where it's like, okay, well, we almost, it'll never be as bad as before the Versuja patch. I hope, right? But if the Meg patch is also bad, I think we tilt into a place where it's like, okay, Ilsa, please save Granblue. You know what I mean? Like at that point, it's like we actually need a kind of a banger patch to get us back on track, right? We've been on a sort of trail of like, you know, the Galleon patch is like batting 500 and like, which is pretty good to be fair in MLB, but you know, this is like batting like 200 kind of thing. It's mostly bad. Yeah, man. I love the idea of EX characters, right? Wellness is literally my favorite DLC ever, but there's a lot of bad balance changes in this patch, I fear, right? As well as, you know, at this point, there's been quite a long while with no 500 is absolutely amazing. Yeah, I meant, you're right. That's why I was like, I meant more so in the sense of, you know, if batting 1,000 is like perfect, I mean more so that batting 500 is like half of this is good, half of this is bad kind of thing. But yes, in baseball, if you're hitting half the time when you step up to the plate, that's obviously really good, right? Ignoring the quality of the balance, if the Meg patch isn't good, it might be curtains for lots of folks on this game. This patch is already a pretty major blow. This patch is not great, right? So I'm really hoping that the Meg patch is a small, measured patch, you know? I want a Galleon patch sized patch with like a good system change in it and like 4 big nerfs or something like that. And like maybe a buff to Vicala. Don't swing for the fences, right? I think, you know, you've done it before and you've hit. This is not really swinging for the fences, it's swinging for, like, the swing in front of the fences. But, like, you know, this is also a bigger patch and it didn't quite work. I think I want the Meg patch to be, like, a smaller, more reasoned out, thought out balance patch. And then, you know, if you want to do Ilsa as, like, some bigger patch to end the season, cool. But I think the Meg patch, it's got to be surgical. It's got to be surgical, you know? I hope and pray that at the very least I can put the Meg patch in major and good, you know? Some system changes, some buffs. Again, the size of the Galleon patch, I don't mind at all, by the way, right? Like, if they're gonna, like, if they want to, like, buff 4 characters, nerf 4 characters, you want to, like, if the Meg patch, obviously this is headcanoning at this point, right? It's fan fiction. But, like, if the Meg patch is, like, good Vicala buffs, good, like, Zoe buffs, or something like that, maybe, like, you know, some good, like, Charlotta and Anila buffs, and people, I don't like, people would really like Anila, right, to get buffed. I think she's probably, there's a couple characters that are higher on that list for me, but she's fallen down there. A lot of characters worse than her got buffed in the last patch, right? But yeah, so like, you know, some good, like, Anila, Charlotta, you know, Vicala and Zoe buffs or something like that, and like a nerf to 6XL, or either 6XL or Brave counter, and then like, you know, a Catalina nerf, a Percival nerf, a Matera nerf, and like one other character, I don't know, like a Beatrix nerf or something like that, right? Even if there's like, you know, what's like, oh, well, we didn't do anything about like Vasaraga or something, it's okay, right? If it just like nerfs 4 characters that need to be nerfed, and it nerfs them in a real way, not like slap on the wrist and compensation buff. If it nerfs 4 characters that need to be nerfed, it buffs 4 characters that need to be buffed in meaningful ways, and has like a good system change in it, ooh, that's gonna be like some creme de la creme, right? I don't want a Versucha patch. I don't need a Versucha patch, right? We can do it over multiple patches. It's fine. But if we are moving, the Galleon patch, I think, is moving us in mostly the wrong direction, right? And I think the Wellness patch is definitely moving us in the wrong direction, right? We gotta turn around. We gotta turn around. We gotta start moving in the right direction, right? It's just not looking too hot right now. So we'll see, man. But yeah, look at that. Finished perfectly at 9 p.m. I actually have to go like right now. So I have some. It's 8:59, which is actually good. Yeah, I know this is a little bit slower paced than most of the stuff that we talk about, but like, you know, a little bit of a stroll down memory lane there, a little bit of the history books of seeing what has happened over the course of the game. And yeah. I can't do my little ending preamble here for too long. But if I didn't buy season passes, I wouldn't be buying Meg in the first place. Yeah, good, agreeable list. Yeah. I really don't know that it's that subjective, really. Like, I feel like if you don't think that these patches were great, I think you're just wrong. If you don't think this patch is amazing, I think you're just wrong, right? Maybe you could argue that maybe some of these were more minor is the only thing. But like, all the good stuff is obviously good. All the stuff is obviously and the wellness patch is pretty obviously not a good patch, right? I feel like this was more so like a compare and contrast. I don't know how subjective this is, really, but I'm sure people can find ways to disagree or agree on anything, right? But yeah, fellas, I got to go, like, right now. So tomorrow, we will probably be playing some wellness, which is a good time. So I'll see you guys then. Until then, thank you for sticking around and listening to this sort of lecture on Granblue history, I suppose. And yeah, man, Meg, please be a good patch. Please be a good patch, Meg. We're hoping, we're praying, we're begging. We're not like in desperate territory yet, but if the Meg patch isn't, if it's like a wellness level patch, then we probably are in a little bit of desperate territory, right? 2 hours for the stream? Yep. See ya, ghosts. It was an interesting stream? Yeah. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.